Canines for Warriors, a terrific organization that trains rescue dogs and then pairs them up with combat veterans struggling with PTSD. The result? They're saving lives on both ends of the leash. This is why I switched to Pure Talk. I like being in business with an American wireless company who shares my values. Yeah, I appreciate unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data for just $25 a month, and I bet you will too. But I think you'll really appreciate doing business with a company who gives back to the men and women who volunteered to defend our country. Just dial pound 250, say micro. With Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team, you can switch in as little as 10 minutes. Again, dial pound 250, say micro, to switch to an American wireless company who actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
One of the monkeys that escaped last week after a truck overturned in Mississippi has been shot dead by a woman who says that she feared for the safety of her family.
Jessica Bond Ferguson said she was alerted early Sunday by her 16-year-old son, who said that he thought he had seen a monkey running in the yard outside their home near Heidelberg, Mississippi. She got out of bed, grabbed her firearm and her cell phone, and stepped outside where she saw the monkey about 60 feet away. Bond Ferguson said she and other residents had been warned about diseases that the monkeys carried, so she fired her gun. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office confirmed in a social media post that a homeowner had found one of the monkeys on their property Sunday morning, but said the office didn't have any details. Bernie Bennett reporting.
The death toll from a deadly landslide in western Kenya has risen to 26 after 4 more bodies were retrieved. The latest update on the casualties comes as rescue efforts were suspended yesterday because of a flash flood in the Rift Valley area. News and analysis, townhall.com. The nation's largest police fleet of Tesla vehicles is set to patrol the streets of Las Vegas.
The 10 cyber trucks were a gift from an anonymous billionaire for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Clark County Sheriff Kevin McMahill sees the addition of the vehicles as part of a larger effort to enhance the department's technology. That donation, though, raising a few concerns from government oversight experts about private donors' influence on public departments and the boost of the Tesla brand. Jason Walker reporting.
The United Arab Emirates has opened a major oil summit. Participants in the meeting predict a rise in energy prices. They believe that power demands for artificial intelligence and global aviation will drive the increase. However, the UAE plans to boost production, and the U.S. moving in the very same direction. More on these stories at townhall.com.
It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Good morning, and welcome to our friends all across the John Fredericks Media Network, all of our friends on the internet, all of our friends watching us on X Live. Just go to Michael P. Leahy or Tennessee Star on X, so you can see us. We're also on Rumble, YouTube, Fire Stick, Roku TV app. I keep forgetting. Just wherever there is social media streaming, we are there. All right, folks, it's time for the Morning Rundown, which is brought to you every day, weekday at this time by our friends at the Glock Store. Glockstore.com, located just a few miles from the airport, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. So here we go. Here's the morning rundown for Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Number one, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to start with sports. The Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series in dramatic fashion in Game 7 Saturday night. It was a spectacular series, and in the end, in 11 innings, they won 5-4. They came back to win. Shohei Ohtani started the game as a pitcher, only made it through, I think, 2 1/3 innings. But the winner and the MVP of the series, who won 3 games and pitched 3 innings of relief to close out the game, after having pitched a full 6 innings and starting the game 6, Yoshi Yamamoto. It was a spectacular individual performance by Yamamoto and really a very exciting World Series. The Blue Jays played well. The Dodgers played well. They played just a little bit better. Number 2, Donald Trump has warned Islamists in Nigeria about their massacre of Christians. Yeah, they keep it up. guns may be blazing in Nigeria. Number 3, calls for the impeachment of Federal District Court Judge James Boasberg are accelerating. We'll have a lot more to talk about that throughout the program. Number 4, I don't know. Barry Weiss has taken over CBS News, but same old tricks for 60 Minutes. Donald Trump was interviewed by that leftist harpy, Nora O'Donnell, and, she would interrupt him all the time. Very, very unprofessional. But he really took it to her, and he laid out the case for the Trump agenda in a very spectacular way. Number 5, the government shutdown now is where are we? We're on the 33rd day. The 34th day will be, we're on the 34th day today, I think. The 35th day is tomorrow. That ties the record for longest shutdown. And then, of course, on Wednesday, it will be the longest shutdown in American history. It will be the longest. Whether it's over on Wednesday, still an open question because, number 6, elections on Tuesday in New York City for mayor, where the Muslim Marxist from Manhattan, Mamdani, is in the lead. In New Jersey, where the Democrat Mikey Sherrill is in a close race with Jack Ciattarelli. And Virginia, where, I'm sorry to say, the leftist Abigail Spanberger has a lead over Winsome Earl Sears for the gubernatorial race. I think, really, to be honest, we've got a shot in New Jersey of winning for the Republicans. In Virginia, the only race I think that the Republicans will win will be the Attorney General race. Jason Myers will beat the leftist Attorney General who wants to put 2 bullets in the head of his opponents. Yeah, he said that via a text message back in 2022. So we've got that going on. Number 8, yes, due process for that illegal alien, alleged human smuggler, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The beat goes on and on and on. Now they're talking about vindictive prosecution. Tom Papper joins us at the bottom of this hour. Number 9, hour 3, or number 8 rather. Mark Pulliam joins us in hour 2, and we're going to talk about all the news of the day, including this impeachment issue of the judge. And in hour 3, I will make the case for the impeachment of Boasberg based upon 99-year-old precedent of a judge impeached in 1926 for, wait for it, signing an illegal court order and abuse of the power of his office. Sound familiar? That's what we call precedent. So there you go. There's the morning rundown for Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Okay, this is the time I like talking about my friend Lanny McGill, the Glock Store. The Glock Store has been a sponsor of the Michael Patrick Leahy Show for years now, even before it was the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Remember, it was the Tennessee Star Report with Michael Patrick Leahy when we were on the iHeart station. Early in the morning, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Mercifully, we're doing 9 to noon now, and I'm able to get a little bit more sleep. I've been lucky enough to go to every one of the incredible yearly Glock Store open houses. Well, this year, Glock Store has set their sights on Black Friday. It's an event you're going to want to try and attend from wherever you are. The details are just now coming together, but if I had to guess, I'm thinking huge discounts on everything, including Glocks, tons of giveaways, great food trucks, maybe some live music, and yes, did I say tons of giveaways? I did mention that twice because no one does giveaways like the Glock Store does giveaways. Now, of course, all the great Black Friday deals will also be available online at glockstore.com, but the real party will be at the Glock Store right here in Nashville, Tennessee. That's the Black Friday celebration from Lanny McGill and the one and only Glock Store. Minutes from the Nashville airport and worth the drive from anywhere, especially wherever you might be on Black Friday. And come on down to Nashville and see the highlights at the Glock Store, glockstore.com. All right, there you go. That's the morning rundown for Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Ted Cruz was one of 9 U.S. senators who the Jack Smith went to a grand jury in D.C. and got a subpoena of his phone records. And Judge Boasberg it gave a court order, a gag court order to AT&T, the service provider for Ted Cruz, and Verizon, the service provider for Senator Marsha Blackburn, one of those 9, and said, you cannot tell them about this for 1 year. Ted Cruz had a few words to say about this to Maria Bartiromo yesterday. Clip 10.
When you have the Biden Department of Justice subpoenaing 20% of the Republicans in the Senate, it is an egregious abuse of process. It is a fishing expedition. And we need to have a full and thorough investigation and accountability for every executive branch official that signed off on weaponizing the government. And I believe that the House of Representatives should impeach Judge Boasberg. Judge Boasberg was the one who made findings that he had no basis for. And when he did that, he took off his judicial robe. He just became a partisan crusader. He joined with Jack Smith in the mission to try to stop Donald Trump from being reelected. Thankfully, the voters prevailed. Democracy prevailed. But I'll tell you what, if, God forbid, Kamala Harris had become president, we would never, ever, ever find out about this. They would have buried their abuse of power. And what's critical, this can never happen again.
Yeah, Ted Cruz is absolutely right about that. I will go in great detail about this illegal court order, this illegal gag order that James Boasberg signed on May 25th, 2023 in Hour 3. You need to stick around for that because it's very significant. All right, Byron Donald has called for the impeachment of James Boasberg. James Boasberg is a graduate of Yale undergrad, Yale Law School, and also is the chief judge of the Federal District Court of Washington, D.C. Here's Byron Donald calling for his impeachment. Clip 3.
What should happen to Judge Boasberg here?
He should be impeached. This is why I'm glad that my colleague out of Texas, Representative Brandon Gill, is actually filing those documents to have him impeached. You can't have a judge just be rogue in our system of justice, helping to abet a rogue prosecutor like Jack Smith to start targeting any American, let alone United States senators. This is outrageous. And once again, it demonstrates the length to which the Democrats would stoop in order to keep political power in the United States.
Byron Donald is exactly right. The drumbeat to file articles of impeachment, hold hearings, and impeach Judge James Boasberg begins. Back after this.
Now more than ever, it's imperative to support companies that share our conservative values. That's why I can't be more excited to tell you that I've switched my family to Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you shift your support away from the leftist, woke, progressive agendas of Big Mobile. Patriot Mobile's wireless service works perfectly and seamlessly as you go about your lives with exceptional nationwide coverage that uses the same towers the main carriers use. Patriot Mobile donates a portion of every dollar earned to causes you care about, to organizations that fight for religious freedom, First and Second Amendment, sanctity of life, and the needs of veterans and first responders. Patriot Mobile has plans to fit any budget, along with great discounts for our veterans and first responder heroes, as well as multi-line users. Switching is easy. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Godzilla or call their U.S.-based customer service team, 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-728-7468. Use offer code Godzilla for free activation.
You've seen the news about Radical Jay Jones, the Democrat who wanted his opponent assassinated.
Jay Jones hoped a Republican's children would die in their mother's arms.
Jay Jones said police needed to die to advance his political agenda.
That's why every law enforcement group called on Jay Jones to withdraw from the race for Attorney General.
But Jay Jones is still in the race.
The only way to stop Jay Jones is for you to vote.
You can vote early in person right now or on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th.
Log on to votenowva.com to find out hours and locations of where you can cast your ballot today. Again, go to votenowva.com.
Vote early. Vote now. Vote before November 4th for our Attorney General, Jason Miyares.
This election is an easy choice. Jason Miyares is the people's protector.
And Jay Jones is too liberal and too damn soft on criminals.
Jay Jones is unacceptable for Virginia.
I'm Jason Miyares, candidate for Attorney General, and this ad was sponsored by Miyares for Virginia. Have you looked at your power bill lately? Electricity prices are at all-time highs, and they're only going up. Even worse, power outages are becoming more and more common. In fact, according to the Department of Energy, blackouts could increase 10,000% over the next few years. If you don't have a backup generator for your home, it's time to get one. But gas generators, they're loud, high maintenance, and they produce dangerous exhaust fumes. The Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator from My Patriot Supply is different. It's whisper quiet, requires no fuel, and it's safe to use indoors. Yet, it delivers enough power to run almost anything in your home. Best of all, you can get a Grid Doctor 3300 for $0 down and as little as $104 a month when you shop at MyPatriotSupply.com. That's right, 3,300 watts of backup power delivered to your door for as little as $104 per month. See the page for more details at MyPatriotSupply.com. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of GlockStore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported the Second Amendment rights of free men and women to protect themselves and their families with firearms. We offer the very best in both selection and prices on Glock handguns, custom Glocks, Glock magazines, and high-performance shooting accessories at GlockStore.com. We also have the finest retail showroom and our Shoot 270 shoot rooms right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Come visit us at GlockStore.com, and you'll be glad you did.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
Paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody, Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
Now more than ever, President Trump needs battle-tested conservatives fighting alongside him to save our country. That's why Trump endorsed Matt Van Epps for Congress. West Point grad, 9 combat tours, decorated Army vet. Matt Van Epps has devoted his life to defending America and the conservative values we cherish. Endorsed by Trump, fearless conservative. Tennessee's Matt Van Epps for Congress. School Freedom Fund is responsible for the content of this ad.
This is Michael Patrick Leahy. Join Rutherford County Mayor Joe Carr, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Congressman Tim Burchett, and Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs and me at T-Bones and Politics 2025 on the evening of November 10th in Murfreesboro for a night of great food, good fellowship, and inspiring political speeches. Get your tickets now. They're going fast at tbonesandpolitics2025.com. This is a great annual event. This year, musical entertainment will be provided by the Tremolo Honey Band. If you haven't heard them before, they are absolutely fantastic. This special event is sponsored by Barrett Firearms, Old South SRM, Moody Excavating, Azure Flight Management, and SEC Engineers. So go right now to tbonesandpolitics2025.com and get your tickets for T-Bones and Politics. It's an evening of great food and fun on November 10th. I'll see you there. Paid for by Joe Pack, William Ronsley, Treasurer.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We have a jam-packed day for you. Very eventful weekend. Our number, if you'd like to call in. You ready? Write it down. 615-814-2848. 615-814-2848. Tell our intrepid producer, Patrick, 3 things. You just need 3 words. Number 1, your name. Number 2, the state in which you reside. And number 3, your topic. That's again, number 1, your name. Number 2, the state in which you reside. Number 3, your topic. 615-814-2848. 615-814-2848. Okay, well, lots going on today. We're in, day 34 of the government shutdown? Yeah, 31 days of October. We're in the 3 days of November. We're at 34. 35 is the record for a shutdown. It was back in 2020. And we'll pass that record. There may be, after the election results come in on Tuesday, tomorrow, there may be an opportunity to kind of, for both sides to get together and end the shutdown. I don't know. The Democrats seem to be totally unhinged. They're not very interested in working with anybody. And actually, they're interested in destroying our country. That's what it sounds like to me. Now, we'll get to the elections tomorrow in a bit. But as a lead up to that, has there ever been, let's just think about former presidents and how lame some of them sound today, those that are talking about it. Yeah, Bill Clinton, in terms of living former presidents, we have Bill Clinton, who's kind of, let his wife do all the talking these days. He's not really jumping in too much in stuff. George W. Bush, he's just disappeared, and for good reason. Yeah, I'm not sad to see him quiet. He needs not to jump in. He doesn't like Donald Trump. And much of what Donald Trump is doing is destroying whatever legacy that George W. Bush put in terms of, building the deep state. So we got that going on. And then the sainted Barack Obama. There is a diminished former president, if ever there was one. Oh, wait, there is one even more diminished. That would be the most recent former president, Joe Biden. But I digress. Let's talk about Barack Obama. What has Barack Obama accomplished since he left office in January of 2017? Let me think. Well, he's raked in a lot of dough from Netflix, where he and his wife, Michelle, have produced some dreadful Netflix shows and programs. What is Michelle doing one with, dating for older people? Are you kidding me? Is that wishful thinking on her part? I don't know. I'm not even going to go there. There's a lot of stuff that could be said about Michelle Obama. I was going to use another nickname to describe her, but I'll be nice for now. So we got that going on. And the word that I would use to describe Barack Obama today is lame, L-A-M-E, lame. What has he accomplished? He's got a lot of money from the Netflix documentaries that are dreadful. He's given a lot of money for making speeches and being his sainted self. Obamacare, his signature program, is a complete disaster. Remember that lie? If you want to keep your doctor, you can. No, that was a lie. And the delivery of services, very low. The price is going up like crazy. It's going into the shutdown thing because, the Democrats want more subsidies for a failed healthcare system. Look, everybody knew Obamacare would be a disaster, and it has been. What is the other thing that Barack Obama has accomplished? Well, this would not fit in the category of accomplishment. Now, think about this. He left office in 2017, January 2017. It's 8 years and 8 months since. And so every former president these days wants to build a presidential library. There's a Ronald Reagan library. There's a George H.W. Bush library down in Texas A&M. There is a Bill Clinton adult bookstore and presidential library in Little Rock. There's a George W. Bush presidential library, well done, at Southern Methodist University. And they got that up pretty quickly after George W. Bush left office. I think it was like just a couple years. 8 years and 8 months. There is, an architectural monstrosity, unfinished, that is the example of when you try to get a group of DEI consultants to create a horse, you end up with a camel. A camel would be, a functional camel would be a lot better than the just awful, ugly, brutal architecture of an unfinished Obama library that I don't know if it will ever be finished in Chicago. It is, eyesore is just an understatement of it. Anyways, that lame guy, Barack Obama, who cannot build his own library, was in the news talking about the shutdown and complaining about, wait for it, Donald Trump's ballroom. Here we go.
And as for the president, he has been focused on critical issues like
paving over the Rose Garden so folks don't get mud on their shoes, and gold plating the Oval Office and building a $300 million ballroom. So, Virginia, here's the good news. If you can't visit a doctor, don't worry. He will save you a dance.
Okay. So, does anybody think that's funny? That's just stupid. I mean, this guy is irrelevant. Now, in Virginia, he was in Virginia, on the campaign trail for Abigail Spanberger. Also on the campaign trail, Attorney General candidate Jay Jones, who basically only accomplishment in life was he went to law school and he got elected to the House of Delegates and sent text messages saying he wanted to put 2 bullets in the head of the former Speaker of the House, Republican in the state of Virginia, and to kill the kids of that man as they were in the arms of the mother of the kids. That's what he texted. Here's the guy talking about why he wants to be Attorney General, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Virginia. Jay Jones.
Virginia, and I know it starts right here in Norfolk. So if you're ready to elect a governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, members of the House of Delegates, and Democrats up and down the ballot this year, you will make some noise because the world is watching. They want to see what we're going to do. And
Let me just stop. They do want to see what you're going to do. Now, in that crowd was Barack Obama, and all those people cheering are cheering for the guy to be the chief law enforcement officer of they call it the Commonwealth of Virginia, a guy who sent text messages like 3 years ago to a colleague in the Virginia House of Delegates saying, yeah, I want to put 2 bullets in the head of the Republican Speaker of the House, and I want his children to die in the arms of their mother. Because in order to advance policy, the other side has to feel pain. That guy, Chief Law, and Obama wants this guy to be the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Virginia. That is one thing I'm going to tell you is not going to happen. Jason Miyares will win re-election, the Republican, as Attorney General in Virginia. That's probably going to be the only good news that comes out of the elections tomorrow. Maybe Chitterelli, the Republican, squeaks by and wins the gubernatorial race in New Jersey. But that's a maybe. Back with more. Tom Papper joins us with the latest on Kilmer Abrego Garcia after this.
Now more than ever, it's imperative to support companies that share our conservative values. That's why I can't be more excited to tell you that I've switched my family to Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you shift your support away from the leftist, woke, progressive agendas of Big Mobile. Patriot Mobile's wireless service works perfectly and seamlessly as you go about your lives with exceptional nationwide coverage that uses the same towers the main carriers use. Patriot Mobile donates a portion of every dollar earned to causes you care about, to organizations that fight for religious freedom, First and Second Amendments, sanctity of life, and the needs of veterans and first responders. Patriot Mobile has plans to fit any budget, along with great discounts for our veterans and first responder heroes, as well as multi-line users. Switching is easy. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Godzilla or call their U.S.-based customer service team, 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-728-7468. Use offer code Godzilla for free activation.
Ghazala Hashmi is masquerading as a moderate, but she's really a dangerous far-left radical. The facts? Crazy far-left groups bankroll Ghazala Hashmi's campaign, and Hashmi repeatedly voted for taxpayer-funded tuition and driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. She even co-sponsored legislation to lower the penalties for criminals who assault police officers and firefighters. Ghazala Hashmi, masquerading as a moderate, too radical for Virginia.
I'm John Reed, candidate for Lieutenant Governor, and I sponsored this ad.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Executive Director of the American Constitutional Rights Union Action Fund, and this is a Live Free Minute. Just this month, an illegal immigrant in Virginia was convicted of raping an 11-year-old girl after breaking into her home. On any given day, there are hundreds of illegal immigrants in Virginia jails who have committed violent crimes. Yet there are politicians who openly advocate for protecting these criminal illegal immigrants and who wish to make Virginia a sanctuary for them. Our constitutional republic is dependent on adherence to the rule of law. Our founders could not have imagined that there would be politicians who would be so bold as to campaign against it. I encourage you to vote this election to protect public safety and the rule of law. This Live Free Minute is sponsored by the American Constitutional Rights Union Action Fund. We empower Americans to live free. And for more information, go to acruaction.com.
Is your pet ready for some possum fun? At Creekside Pet Hotel in Kennesaw, every day is a tail-wagging adventure. Whether they're romping with friends in day camp, enjoying a staycation in our cozy boarding, or getting pampered in our luxury spa, we make sure every furry guest gets the royal treatment. Happy pets, wagging tails, and the best care. What more could they ask for? Book your pet's perfect getaway today at creeksidepethotel.com or give us a call at 770-422-4700.
My fellow Americans, I have to tell you about my good friends at D.T. McCall & Sons. They have furniture and appliances and a lot more. They've been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years, and they're not going to rip you off. No hidden charges, no delivery charges, no charges for all of the crazy things. These are sick people at the lumber yards. These are very sick people. They charge you for cords and hoses and haul off. They charge you for all of these things. They call them hidden charges. It's the type of surprise that you don't want to see. It's like an October surprise, but it's worse. D.T. McCall & Sons, they're not going to do that. They're great people. They're going to give you a great deal. With locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, D.T. McCall & Sons will give you the deal of your life. Check them out today or go to dtmccalls.com.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
I flew 9 combat tours taking out terrorists.
Matt Van Epps, America First warrior.
When my Chinook took enemy fire, I kept her in the air, got our guys, and completed the mission.
Matt Van Epps, American hero.
Now I'm on a new mission to help Trump save America. I'm Matt Van Epps. I approve this message because I know what to do with terrorists. So these woke wannabes in Washington better take cover.
Matt Van Epps, the conservative warrior Trump needs.
Paid for by Matt Van Epps for Congress.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
We welcome to our Zoom Newsmaker line right now our lead political reporter at the Tennessee Star and the Star News Network, Tom Pappert. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Michael.
Well, Tom, let me set this this segment up. We have been talking about due process for quite some time. Now, under the Fifth Amendment, our Bill of Rights, ratified in 1791, no person may be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. This is a foundational concept of our republic. It's been in the news. Due process has been in the news a lot lately, often in regards to the due process rights of illegal aliens who are subject to final deportation orders. Tom, it is the ultimate irony of American life in 2025 that the regime media and many federal district judges have repeatedly demonstrated great concern for the due process rights of illegal aliens charged with crimes, but in the case of at least one federal district judge, that would be James Boasberg, they have absolutely no concern for the due process rights of 9 Republican U.S. senators. Now, having said all that, what is the latest ludicrous action by federal district court judges and highly paid defense attorneys in the criminal case and the immigration case of the illegal alien, the man from Maryland, Kilmar Abrego Garcia? It just never ends. What's the latest, Tom Pappert?
Well, Michael, the due process concerns also seem to never end. This all began Thursday when the Obama-appointed district court judge, Paula Zinnes in Maryland, who was overseeing the immigration lawsuits, well, she gave the DHS permission to move Kilmar Abrego Garcia from the ICE facility in Pennsylvania, where he's been for about 2 months, back to Tennessee for an upcoming evidentiary hearing. Because in order to receive his due process, Abrego Garcia has claimed the government is vindictively prosecuting him and the charges must be dropped. And the other Obama-appointed judge involved with Abrego Garcia's legal adventures is Waverly Crenshaw. Waverly Crenshaw on Thursday also received a filing from Abrego Garcia's attorneys. And this filing, well, it expressed concern for due process on behalf of the Department of Justice, believe it or not. Abrego Garcia said to the judge, "We just don't think that the Department of Justice is going to be ready to rebut our claims of vindictive prosecution on November 4th. Please, Judge, ask them to work harder to make this argument. Tell them to give you more evidence and create a better witness list for us. And let's come back to this issue in December." So I don't know if I've ever seen something like this before, where the defense attorneys are saying, "We don't think the government is ready to make its argument, Judge Crenshaw. Give us another month and change."
And the judge did, I think, didn't he?
That's exactly right. The judge granted it on Friday. So now we thought we were going to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia live and in person this week. Now that has been rescheduled to December 8th and December 9th. We'll see if the judge moves it again.
Well, this is clearly a delay tactic on the part of all of those who, in essence, let's get right to the core. What is this really about? The millions and millions of dollars being spent for the legal defense of the illegal alien with a final deportation order in effect since 2019, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Why are they doing all this? They want to delay his deportation so that it will delay the Trump administration's deportation of millions of other illegal aliens. That's my view on it. Your thoughts on this, Tom Pappert?
Well, I think that's a big part of it, Michael, but they're not being very successful at that. The Trump administration, I think the latest number has actually deported, as in detained and got out of the country, about 600,000. I think that the Trump administration is actually on pace in terms of the self-deportations and the actual deportations to exceed the Obama administration's high watermark. So they're not having a lot of success there. But what they are having a lot of success at is the demoralization campaign. And you see it in our listeners. You see it everywhere on social media. Every time Kilmar Abrego Garcia comes up, you just see a flash of revulsion across the faces of Trump voters who rightly view this as a challenge to everything they voted for last year. That's what this is all about. They want us to be beaten down and convinced that our vote doesn't matter so that we won't vote this week and we won't vote next year in the midterms. I don't think they're going to be successful at that either, because the Trump administration is not letting this one go.
You know, the other thing that this is doing, the almost comical manner in which one illegal alien who has been charged with human smuggling, the amount of effort spent, the millions of dollars spent by, I'm assuming leftists who are paying these high-end law firms in two separate cases, combined with the federal district court judges who really, if you want to be blunt about it, are acting as if they are defense attorneys for Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They are not in any regard impartial, in my view. I think what that does is it absolutely undermines public confidence in our federal judiciary. Your thoughts on this, Tom Pappert?
Well, absolutely, Michael. We talked about this a little bit last month when we were exposing a public defender who was making vile posts after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And my real takeaway was, what would this mean for an individual? Say they got accused of a crime and they're assigned this public defender. Well, this is so much worse, because what if somebody in the state of Maryland is accused of a federal crime? They're a prominent Trump supporter, and they are assigned to Judge Paula Zinnes. Do you think that they will receive a fair trial? Or in Middle Tennessee, they're assigned to Judge Waverly Crenshaw, or heaven forbid, somebody were assigned to Judge James Boasberg.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
totally undermines any remaining faith in the justice system.
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly right. Now, back in the land of ludicrous, this whole claim of vindictive prosecution is based on the assertion that, well, it wasn't until April when the Supreme Court said you got to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back, that the Department of Homeland Security began looking into these smuggling charges against Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Let us set the record straight. Tom, it was your reporting. I think it was like April 16th of this year, based upon some tips that we had, that was later confirmed that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was pulled over on a suspicion of speeding and weaving on I-40 near Cookeville, Tennessee, back in November of 2022. And when they pulled him over, they found that he had 9 people who couldn't speak English, who were Spanish and were obviously illegal aliens, in his vehicle. He was driving with no driver's license that was effective. It was a suspended driver's license for illegals that was only good in Maryland, and he was driving a vehicle owned by a convicted human smuggler. The Tennessee Highway Patrol officer came in and said, "You know what you've got here? He's hauling these people for money. That is a federal crime, human smuggling." But after an hour and 20 minutes on the side of the road, they got a call from the Biden-era FBI and said, "Let the guy go." That is why they began the prosecution of this guy for human smuggling. Your thoughts on that, Tom Pappert?
Well, I agree with everything you just said. I would simply add something that these judges, particularly Crenshaw, can't seem to understand. Abrego Garcia was deportable in 2019. They just couldn't send him, according to his version of events, to El Salvador, according to the order itself, to Guatemala. So the Trump administration had no reason to investigate any of this because they had the final deportation order. They wanted to get him out of our country. They had no reason to investigate what happened in 2022 until a judge told them that you're wrong. This is a Maryland man. He's a father and a metal worker. We like this guy. And then, of course, we wrote our article and published it. It is my belief that that is what spurred the Trump administration to investigate on a whole nother level.
You're being too modest. It's not just your belief. This whole investigation and that led to the indictment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia on charges of human smuggling are because of the story you broke at the Tennessee Star in April 16th of 2025 about this traffic stop. And then you also broke that he was released because the Biden-era FBI told him. That's what caught the attention of the Department of Justice. And they looked at that as we did and say, what? You're letting this guy off the hook just because he's an illegal alien? What if this happened to an American citizen? That citizen would have been arrested that night. That's why they began. And this is not vindictive prosecution by any means. They're trying to set it up to be perceived as such. It's a delay tactic. Your thoughts on that, Tom Pappert?
I think that's exactly correct. That's all Abrego Garcia seems to be doing in any of his 3, maybe 4 or 5 currently ongoing legal cases. I mean, we've seen him claim that he is afraid of persecution and torture in 24 countries, including Costa Rica, where he's 3 times claimed that he wants to go. It's been nothing but delay, and I don't think it is serving Kilmar. Kilmar could be free in Costa Rica in a couple months if they had taken his plea deal offered earlier this year.
Yeah.
Instead, I see very little chance this case is going to go to trial in January. He could be incarcerated for months on end while these cases are litigated because, again, he did not accept the deportation offer, and he is playing, in my opinion, games with the Justice Department.
Tom, when we come back, let's turn our attention to Memphis, where a security officer for the public schools there has been arrested in an FBI drug bust. Huh, who would have thunk? Back with Tom Pappert after this.
Is a record player the best way to listen to music? Of course not. So why are you still taking vitamins in pill form that haven't been upgraded since the 1930s? Even if you don't have trouble swallowing, most vitamins in pill form can't be absorbed very well. It's time to upgrade to the pill-free future of vitamins. Advanced nutrition company, Healthy Cell, created a patent-pending ingestible gel that is clinically proven to have 265% the absorption rate of tablets. These physician-formulated supplements come in a small gel pack. You tear off the top and shoot it down. You can also mix it in water. They taste great, they're convenient on the go, and they're more natural too, without chemical binders, fillers, and coatings. Go to healthycell.com and use code GODZILLA for 20% off your first order of any product. That's healthycell.com. HEALTHYCELL.com.
Is your pet ready for some pawsome fun? At Creekside Pet Hotel in Kennesaw, every day is a tail-wagging adventure. Whether they're romping with friends in day camp, enjoying a staycation in our cozy boarding, or getting pampered in our luxury spa, we make sure every furry guest gets the royal treatment. Happy pets, wagging tails, and the best care. What more could they ask for? Book your pet's perfect getaway today at creeksidepethotel.com or give us a call at 770-422-4700.
They hate your guts. If you're listening to this message, the woke left doesn't want you to vote. They despise everything we stand for. And they know the only way they can win this election is if conservative Virginia voters like us don't show up. From the second we re-elected President Trump, they've stopped at nothing to stop us. They call us stupid. They lie their butts off. They even fantasized about murdering us. If conservatives don't vote, Jay Jones will be in charge of law enforcement, and Abigail Spanberger will decide what kind of man gets to undress next to your daughter at school. Radical DEI, insane taxes, sanctuary cities that protect criminal illegals instead of us. That's Virginia's future. Unless every conservative votes. So don't let the woke nutjobs take control of our state. Send a clear message. Make your vote count on November 4th.
I'm Winsome Earl Sears, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
Ghazala Hashmi is masquerading as a moderate, but she's really a dangerous far-left radical. The facts? Crazy far-left groups bankroll Ghazala Hashmi's campaign, and Hashmi repeatedly voted for taxpayer-funded tuition and driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. She even co-sponsored legislation to lower the penalties for criminals who assault police officers and firefighters. Ghazala Hashmi, masquerading as a moderate, too radical for Virginia.
I'm John Reed, candidate for lieutenant governor, and I sponsored this ad.
Hey there, it's Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of GlockStore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported our Second Amendment rights with GlockStore.com, the world's #1 source for Glock handguns, parts, and accessories. I also support accurate, unbiased journalism like The Michael Patrick Leahy Show. His team broke the Kilmar Abrego Garcia traffic stop and was the first to obtain that video. Independent journalism at its finest. Visit us at GlockStore.com, listen to Michael Patrick Leahy, and make America great again.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
Paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody, Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We are joined on our Newsmaker line by our very good friend, the lead political reporter at the Tennessee Star and the Star News Network, Tom Pappert. So this is an interesting story that kind of surprises me. Not. You've got a breaking story. A security officer, we just published at TennesseeStar.com. A security officer for Memphis Shelby County Schools was arrested in an FBI drug bust of 14 law enforcement officials. Whoa. What's going on with that?
Michael, it's really a fascinating story. I think that there's going to be more about this, and it's going to be something that's in the news for the next few months, if not years or so. There were actually 20 arrests total. 14 of them were involved in law enforcement. The majority of the individuals arrested were in the state of Mississippi, where they were alleged to have traveled to Florida and other states to meet with undercover FBI agents who they thought were cartel members. The individual that we're talking about goes by the name of Ashawn Roach, and this individual is accused specifically of traveling from Memphis to Florida, rather, where he agreed to play a role in a drug smuggling conspiracy. That is the accusation. He is additionally accused of taking a $6,500 bribe to facilitate his part of the criminal conspiracy. Now, allegedly, this involved multiple police departments across the state of Mississippi. We're still trying to figure out whether this individual, Ashawn Roach, we know that he is being called a security officer for Memphis Shelby County Schools. I'm not entirely sure, and the district did not clarify this morning when they responded to my press inquiry whether or not this means he is a student resource officer. They also have neglected to clarify whether this individual, Ashawn Roach, now charged as part of a drug conspiracy, criminal conspiracy, they have not clarified whether he had access or contact with children. So it's a very fascinating story, and I think the bigger story is, of course, what the FBI has been doing, which is massive drug busts in the Mississippi Delta.
Yeah, you know, the FBI is doing what the FBI is supposed to do, which is finding criminals and getting them off the streets. That's what the original purpose of the FBI. It wasn't to basically, try to track down Republican critics and manufacture reasons to put them in jail, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, I guess the agents have been allowed to stop stalking Catholic Republicans, traditional Catholics, and other religious groups. I guess they've been allowed to stop showing up at school board meetings to follow parents around. And I guess they're once again able to tackle institutional corruption because, again, these are police officers involved. So it's reassuring, I think, that the FBI has gone from going after people based on politics to once again pursuing allegedly corrupt local officials, police officers, sheriffs, and apparently possibly a school resource officer.
Yeah, I think it is very reassuring to see this happen. And let's put it this way. I think we were both very excited at first to see that Kash Patel was named director of the FBI and that Dan Bongino was his deputy. The first couple months, let's face it, were a little bit rocky, right? But now if you think about it, how many people work for the FBI? It's like, 17,000? Some big number. I don't remember exactly.
Right.
What it is. Think about this. It's almost like, perhaps this is not exactly the best comparison, but it's almost like looking at a big ship, like, the Titanic. And when you see an iceberg up there, even if you try to turn it around, you may not be able to turn it in time. Now, the FBI could have been the Titanic, but I think it seems to me that Kash Patel is really starting to get a hold of it, and he's really starting to turn it around so that it's not a propaganda arm of the Democrat Party and the deep state, but is indeed a law enforcement agency out there to try and reduce crime in the country. Your thoughts, Tom Pappert?
I think that's exactly right. And I think that's why Director Patel is receiving so much incoming. I mean, there's a law, by the way, or an executive order, I think, from the president back in 2011 that says the FBI director, the attorney general, people like this have to take government planes. Well, Kash Patel takes the government plane because he have to, and suddenly this is the major national news story of the weekend, and it's even bleeding into the beginning of the week that, oh, Kash Patel took the government plane because there's a law saying he has to. So I think this is why he's being so heavily criticized and targeted, and even by some on the right who are falling into this trap. It's because he's actually an effective FBI director, and I'm no J. Edgar Hoover fan, Michael, but I must admit that when we saw him testify in Congress a month or so ago, I had a flash of J. Edgar Hoover sitting there, and I thought, my goodness, do we have the MAGA Hoover finally? It would really be something. I think he's doing a good job.
We've got the head MAGA G-man, Kash Patel. Tom Pappert, great reporting, and look forward to the next. I don't look forward to it, but there will be another episode in the Kilmar Abrego Garcia illegal alien saga. Tom, thanks for reporting today.
Thank you, Michael. It's always a pleasure.
Up next, the one, the only, Mark Pulliam, author of Misrule of Law, retired attorney, all-around good guy. Back after this.
Each of us is born with 30 trillion cells that make us. These cells determine how we feel, perform, sleep, focus, and how long we live. And to live our best life, all we have to do is feed our cells properly. But most supplements don't reach our cells, keeping us from reaching our full potential. Make every cell count with Healthy Cell. Founded with a mission to empower people to take control of their own health at the most fundamental level, the cell. Dr. Vincent Gempapa, world-renowned cell researcher and medical doctor, created supplements that work at the cellular level to support immune health, better sleep, sharper focus, and healthy aging. Go to healthycell.com and use code GODZILLA for 20% off your first order of any product. That's healthycell.com, HEALTHYCELL, and use code GODZILLA for 20% off.
The Cats and Cosby Show.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories.
Mondami visited a very controversial Brooklyn mosque just months after the imam there called for the annihilation of Israel. Your thoughts?
This is a total failure of the media, the journalists, and the Democratic Party to confront this kid with his own background. He's a rabid socialist.
Cats and Cosby, 5 Eastern, 4 Central on the John Fredericks Media Network.
He gave the finger to the Columbus statue.
Right. I can't almost think of any group he hasn't offended.
John Fredericks loves his radio and TV audience, but did you know how to follow the Godzilla of Truth wherever you go? Download the John Fredericks Radio Show app to listen live nationwide. For the daily chit-chat, Trucking the Truth, download the Getter app and join the morning fun on Getter Live from 6 to 10 a.m. Follow John Fredericks on Getter, Truth Social, or Twitter at JF.
This is WJFN Goochland, Bonaire, Chester, and WJFV Portsmouth, part of the John Fredericks Media Network.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. President Trump describes what's taking place in Nigeria as a mass slaughter, adding that he's not going to put up with it.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
The president says he's ordered the Pentagon to start planning for potential military action in Nigeria. He also warns that he will immediately stop all aid and assistance to the West African country. Trump administration says any new nuclear weapons tests will be explosion-free.
Energy Secretary Chris Wright clarified President Trump's recent order for the U.S. to start testing nuclear weapons for the first time in 3 decades. He told Fox News the tests will be system tests, not nuclear explosions. Wright's comments came after the president was coy late last week on whether he was actually ordering the resumption of explosive testing of nuclear weapons. Greg Clugston, Washington.
New York City's mayoral candidates making a final push to get voters to the polls as the race to lead America's biggest city nears its finale. Election Day is tomorrow, with Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani, Independent Andrew Cuomo, and Republican Curtis Sliwa stumping right down to the wire. A couple of closely watched governor's races to be decided tomorrow. One's in New Jersey, the other one in Virginia. According to the polls, those contests are quite close. Insisting he's not going to be extorted by the Democrats, President Trump says he will only negotiate to extend health care subsidies once the government has been reopened. Today, day 34 of the government shutdown. Wall Street, the Dow down 224 points. NASDAQ is up 93. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
She's unafraid and unapologetic. She's Laura Trump, and she's shaking things up on the Right View podcast.
We were hell-bent on making sure that there was no cheating in this election, but then for Donald Trump to win the popular vote, history was made in so many different ways. To witness it, it's quite a time to be alive, and it really, truly is.
Subscribe to the Right View podcast with Laura Trump today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
It's a first for the White House as a Syrian leader will come calling.
President Trump will host Ahmad al-Shara for talks, a first-ever visit by a Syrian president to the White House. The meeting is expected to take place November 10th. The president met with al-Shara in Saudi Arabia in May in what was the first encounter between the two nations' leaders in 25 years, and one that could serve as a turning point for Syria as it struggles to emerge from decades of international isolation. Ron Taylor reporting.
Riot police in Belgrade have had to separate opponents and backers of Serbia's President Aleksandar Vučić as political tensions rise after a year of anti-government demonstrations around the country. Thousands faced off on both sides of police barriers, tossing bottles and flares. Tensions soared after a big rally over the weekend marked the anniversary of a train station disaster that left 16 people dead. News and analysis, townhall.com. The closest supermoon of the year. It's just around the corner.
It happens when a full moon is closer to the Earth in its orbit, making it appear slightly bigger and brighter. Wednesday's event is the second of 3 supermoons this year and also the closest. The moon will come within just 222,000 miles of Earth. The change in the moon's size can be tough to discern with the naked eye. Supermoons happen a few times a year. A supermoon in October made the moon look somewhat larger. The last supermoon of the year will rise in December. Keith Peters, Washington.
Warren Buffett's company's profits improved by 17%, thanks to a relatively mild hurricane season and more paper investment gains this year, as Berkshire Hathaway continues to get ready for the legendary 95-year-old investor to relinquish the CEO title, that in January. More on these stories, townhall.com.
It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, our very good friend, retired attorney, Mark Pulliam, author of Misrule of Law, the blog there. I stumble when I say retired. I stumble. You know why? It's just like Al Pacino in The Godfather. I try to pull you back in, but you resist.
I resist.
You like retirement. All right. Mark, so much to talk about. Let's begin with Biden's weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, including calls for Judge James Boasberg, the chief judge in the Federal District Court of the District of Columbia, for his impeachment. Now, before we get into that, just a little bit, this whole operation was called Arctic Frost. And you know what Arctic Frost is?
Well, I think I know. And they don't pick these names out of thin air.
There's some reason for it.
Yeah.
It's a type of orange, as in Orange Man bad. Now, that's not original to me to point that out. John Eastman, the famous constitutional scholar who's been caught up in all this lawfare from the left, pointed that out recently. Okay, so set the stage for us about this.
Okay, since President Trump won the election in 2024, people in Congress have been busy uncovering all the dirt that the DOJ under Biden and Merrick Garland, Biden's Attorney General, and the FBI, which has been a corrupt sewer of for the last 20, 30 years, and they've been exposing all of this weaponization of these government agencies to go after their political opponents. And Chuck Grassley, who's chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and Jim Jordan, who's chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, have been investigating this and have had all kinds of revelations. And they have provoked outrage, but this past week, the outrage reached a new fever pitch. And it's because of revelations about Arctic frost, which was conducted in secrecy. Some of these documents Grassley was only able to get because they were leaked to him. Some of these, they tried to bury this. And so what is so outrageous about Arctic frost at all is that they turned the protests over the 2020 election into something that's basically an indictable crime. And they launched this dragnet of an investigation going after hundreds of people because the people were claiming that the election was rigged, and people submitted these alternative slates of electors, which was completely consistent with historic practice going back to 1876 and more recently 1960, as that was a crime that needed to be investigated, which was outrageous. And then it turns out that Jack Smith, the
illegal special counsel.
Yeah,
I mean, he was the court determined that his appointment was not legal,
and he was like Inspector Javert from Les Miserables. He was just on a mission to hound people. That he had obtained nearly 200 subpoenas, ensnaring basically the entire Republican leadership of Congress. Okay, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty outrageous. But what launched people into a new orbit is that these subpoenas were signed by James Boasberg, who's this anti-Trump judge in D.C. He's the guy that summoned the planes back after people had been, the illegal aliens had been deported. He did things that led the Supreme Court to smack him down. But even that did not, result in a chorus of calls for his impeachment. But what he did here was he subpoenaed the cell phone records, including the personal cell phone records of senators, about a dozen senators, including Ted Cruz.
And Marsha Blackburn.
And these subpoenas were accompanied by a gag order. So when these subpoenas went to AT&T and Verizon, the subpoena had an order that says you cannot tell your customer that their records have been subpoenaed. And the rationale for this was that because we think that these people would try to destroy the evidence if they knew that their records were under scrutiny. Well, it turns out that there's a federal law that protects U.S. senators from having their phone records, their communications monitored in this way, because the Senate needs to be able to determine whether or not these communications are part of this deliberative process privilege in order to protect the separation of powers. And Boasberg apparently intentionally tried to circumvent that and did circumvent that.
Intentionally. And knowingly.
And so when Ted Cruz found out about this, not only were his records illegally obtained, but pursuant to an order that basically accused him of being untrustworthy and likely to destroy evidence, which for somebody like Ted Cruz, with his record of commitment to the law, is about the biggest insult that you could make. And so they are now, many, many people, including Andy Ogles, Tim Burchett, Ted Cruz, Eric Schmidt, Marsha Blackburn, are calling for the impeachment of James Boasberg.
I don't know if Marsha's yet called for the impeachment.
Okay.
What Marsha has called for, and remember she's in the Senate, Ted Cruz has, but she's called for Boasberg to come before her committee, the Judiciary Committee, to be accountable. But your point is well made. It's Byron Donalds, and impeachment starts in the House. You have to have a majority vote for that to happen. Now, back to this. See, this gag order was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of should Judge Boasberg be impeached. Let me just go down the list of the elements of the Constitution and federal statutes that Judge Boasberg knowingly violated with that gag order. You mentioned a federal statute, the Stored Communications Act. It violates that. The Speech and Debate Clause of the Constitution violates that. The Separation of Powers Doctrine of the Constitution violates that. And then let's talk about Marsha Blackburn in particular, because her telecom provider, Verizon, complied with this order. Ted Cruz's cell phone provider, AT&T, refused to comply with it, although his landline was stopped because it had a different provider. But what rights of Senator Blackburn have been violated? Well, her First Amendment speech rights, her Fourth Amendment protection from illegal search and seizure, and, wait for it, her Fifth Amendment due process rights. Think about that.
Yeah.
Because the due process that she was denied, so they come in and they say, we want to take your phone records. If she had due process, she would have been, in fairness, right? The idea of due process is to be fair to people. Well, you got to tell them, and they have to have the opportunity to go to court to quash the subpoena.
Notice and an opportunity to be
Bingo.
heard. Yeah. And so this is outrageous on many levels, and I think that this has been a simmering pot that has now been brought to a boil, where this is not just something people talk about. It's a real thing that in District of Columbia, the chief judge of this cabal of activist federal judges is basically on a campaign of lawfare against the Republican leadership of the Congress. And if this doesn't provoke them to impeach him, whether or not they can get a conviction in the Senate is sort of irrelevant. He needs to be put in the stocks and held to account, and with all of the accompanying injury to his image and his reputation, and so that the public can see this. And Eric Schmidt is saying we need weeks of Watergate-style hearings,
yes,
where we explore every facet of this.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, and you talked about in the previous segment how difficult it is to turn the FBI around. The same is true for the DOJ. When you have these large organizations that for decades have been packed with activist liberals, the deep state, then you come in, you can't just issue an internal memorandum and expect everybody to do a 180. You have to ferret out these people. A lot of people need to be fired. A lot of people need to be forced to quit. And that's what's been happening.
Another, I think it was Obama appointed or Biden appointed federal district judge in Chicago was just slapped down by a circuit court of appeals there. And we'll talk about that when we get back with Mark Pulliam, This Rule of Law. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
Hey folks, Al Green here for SatPhone. When you're on the go, you want to know you're connected. If it's a family vacation or an off-the-grid escape to a remote destination, having reliable communication helps you feel safe and secure. You can't afford to find yourself in a dead zone. That's why you need SatPhone. SatPhones are reliable, durable, and give you global coverage. If you can get outside, you can get in touch. It's that simple. Make calls from your SatPhone to any regular cell phone in the United States. The phones are $1,500 value, but you can get yours free. Just sign up for a 15-month plan, $94.95 a month. Get 150 minutes monthly that roll to the next month. Go 3 months without using them, that's fine. Yes, 3 months, 450 minutes, all yours. Visit SAT123.com or call 855-980-5830. SAT123.com, 855-980-5830. Get surety and security with your SatPhone. Call now.
Ghazala Hashmi is masquerading as a moderate, but she's really a dangerous far-left radical. The facts? Crazy far-left groups bankroll Ghazala Hashmi's campaign, and Hashmi repeatedly voted for taxpayer-funded tuition and driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. She even co-sponsored legislation to lower the penalties for criminals who assault police officers and firefighters. Ghazala Hashmi, masquerading as a moderate, too radical for Virginia.
I'm John Reed, candidate for Lieutenant Governor, and I sponsored this ad.
Why is Purple Wave Auction the fastest growing heavy equipment marketplace? Our full service online auctions take the hassle out of buying and selling farm, construction, and fleet equipment. Thousands of business owners partner with Purple Wave each month to manage their equipment. Sellers count on our experienced professionals to handle the marketing, paperwork, and payments. And bidders trust in a marketplace free of reserves and hidden fees. Purple Wave is the turnkey online auction service you've been looking for. Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
For Virginia to grow and thrive, Governor Youngkin declared,
"We have to protect right to work."
Nearly 80% of Virginians agree. So does Winsome Earl Sears. But Abigail Spanberger thinks Virginians should have to pay union bosses just to get or keep their jobs. In fact, Spanberger voted twice in Congress to wipe out every state's right to work law nationwide. Demand she defend worker choice and support right to work. Call Abigail Spanberger, 804-223-0770. Paid for by the National Right to Work Committee.
Is your fur baby looking a bit rough? Transform them from shaggy to snazzy with Befur and After Pet Grooming in Marietta, Georgia. Their top-notch groomers pamper your pups with baths, custom cuts, and nail trims that'll have them strutting like show dogs. From mobile grooming vans to their cozy salon, they'll make your pet spa day a tail-wagging blast. Book now at BefurandAfterGrooming.com. Befur and After, where pets go from grr to glamorous.
I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of Glockstore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported the Second Amendment rights of free men and women to protect themselves and their families with firearms. We offer the very best in both selection and prices on Glock handguns, custom Glocks, Glock magazines, and high-performance shooting accessories at Glockstore.com. We also have the finest retail showroom and our Shoot 270 shoot rooms right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Come visit us at Glockstore.com, and you'll be glad you did.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
Paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody, Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
Now more than ever, President Trump needs battle-tested conservatives fighting alongside him to save our country. That's why Trump endorsed Matt Van Epps for Congress. West Point grad, 9 combat tours, decorated Army vet. Matt Van Epps has devoted his life to defending America and the conservative values we cherish. Endorsed by Trump, fearless conservative. Tennessee's Matt Van Epps for Congress. School Freedom Fund is responsible for the content of this ad.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Our phone number is 615-814-2848. 615-814-2848 if you want to call in. Stick to the topic in this hour. We want your name and the state of your residence, but we want you to talk about what we're talking about in this hour with our good friend, all-star panelist, author of The Misrule of Law, retired attorney, but well-accomplished attorney in his career, Mark Pulliam. Okay, so Mark, let me set up the problem. So we have a federal judiciary with, I think it's like 600 or so federal district court judges around the country.
Yep.
And a couple hundred of them have been appointed by either Joe Biden, I think maybe even more than that, at the lowest level, Joe Biden or Barack Obama. And as a group, they are largely, shall we say, part of the lawfare problem. I'll be kind. I could be more dramatic in describing them. They just actually, I see so many times where these federal district court judges appointed by Obama or Biden abuse the law. You have a case in point.
Yeah. So since President Trump took office this second term and started launching all of these executive orders, various left-wing groups have run into court selectively, picking favored venues in blue cities with Clinton or Obama or Biden-appointed judges to seek injunctive relief. And even though the Supreme Court has tamped that down and said you do not have national jurisdiction to issue injunctions, and even though some of these crazy decisions have been stayed or overturned on appeal, they persist. And in this last week, we saw Susan Ilston, a San Francisco judge appointed by Bill Clinton, enjoined Trump from firing federal workers during the government shutdown orchestrated by Chuck Schumer. And then just on Friday, we saw a couple of Obama appointees order the federal government to continue paying food stamps out of a $5 billion contingency fund that was really designed to protect against natural disasters.
Authorized for another purpose.
Authorized for another purpose. So this is brazen.
Did you see what Trump said on Truth Social? He said, I've instructed our lawyers to figure out how to comply with this court order and also comply with the law.
Yeah.
Because that money has been. I think that was a very good response from President Trump.
But I think the most brazen example of judicial insurrection by a rogue judge in this last week is by an Obama appointee in Chicago named Sarah Ellis. And, Chicago is ground zero in the nullification of federal immigration law, in particular deportation of illegal aliens. It's a sanctuary city in a sanctuary state. You got one of the worst mayors in the country, Brennan Johnson, and you've got one of the worst governors in the country, J.B. Pritzker, and they are apparently trying to reenact the Civil War in their defiance and rebellion against the Trump administration. Well, and they have an ally with Sarah Ellis, who apparently is auditioning to be appointed to this Court of Appeals with the next Democratic president. And so some immigration groups had gotten in there, and she filed a suit against the Trump administration, and she had issued TRO saying...
Well, hold on, before we go.
Yeah.
She was born in London, Ontario, Canada, to Jamaican-born parents. She did not become a naturalized citizen of the United States until she was 15 years old. There's a theme here.
There is, and some of the worst decisions by these rogue judges were, in fact, issued by judges who were not native-born and who have, foreign heritage. And she is certainly an example.
I just wonder if there ought to be an element, the naturalization, natural-born citizen element of the Constitution that applies to the president. I think we ought to be thinking about applying that to the appointment of federal district court judges.
Well, the Senate ought to take that into account when they're confirming these left-wing hacks, or being asked to confirm left-wing hacks. So there had been a lawsuit. Some immigration right groups said, basically ICE and the Border Patrol are picking on people, and she had issued a TRO saying you cannot use certain types of force, unless people are engaged in
temporary restraining order.
Yeah, unless they're engaged in violence.
She issued that to ICE.
If this is peaceful protest, you can't use crowd control techniques. Okay, fine. And so the head of the Border Patrol, Greg Bovino, was in Chicago, and he was with his troops out there on the street, and people were throwing rocks at the ICE and the Border Patrol, and one hit him, and that prompted him to toss a tear gas in their direction. Okay, so Judge Ellis is sitting at home watching the news on TV. She sees this on her TV, and even though this tear gas episode was not directed at any of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that was pending in her court, and even though no party to that lawsuit had requested relief from her, the next day she goes into court and issues an order directing Chief Bovino to show up in her courtroom like she was calling DoorDash for a delivery, and then summoned him in, interrogated him for an hour and a half, ordered him to wear a body camera in the future if he was dealing with the public, and then said, and just to make sure that you stay on the straight and narrow, I want you back in my courtroom every day at 6 o'clock to give me a report, like she's some middle school teacher dealing with a delinquent student.
Or as if she is usurping the executive power of the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Yeah. And many people, when they saw this, thought, well, this is not going to hold up because this crosses the line. And sure enough, the Seventh Circuit, which is based in Chicago, that's the Court of Appeal that's in charge of Illinois, stayed that part of her decision that directed Chief Bovino to have to come to her courtroom every day and give a personal report. But then they did not, even though the federal government, Pam Bondi's people, had requested a writ of mandamus, which would be basically erasing the order in its entirety, not just a stay, but basically vacating the order in its entirety. After they had a chance to think about it a little bit more, the next day they did issue a writ of mandamus. And the Court of Appeals, and this was an unusual feature of this, it did not get reported anywhere, including, I'm sad to say, the Wall Street Journal, which had given a lot of play to this episode where he was hauled into court, that Seventh Circuit said the order was not, however, a response to any motion by counsel for the plaintiffs, and the videos to which the judge referred apparently do not deal with behavior involving any of the plaintiffs. So this was basically, she went out on her own like she was some kind of roving arbiter, like she's Matt Dillon, the marshal in charge of Dodge City. And that is such a complete reversal of what the limited role of judges in our society is, where they're supposed to be deciding only cases and controversies pending in matters over which they have jurisdiction by parties withstanding. You can't just watch something on the news and start hauling in executive branch personnel to read them the Riot Act and to give them directions. And so later on in the same order, the Seventh Circuit said, the district court's order has two principal failings. First, it puts the court in the position of an inquisitor rather than that of a neutral adjudicator of the parties' adversarial presentations. Second, it sets the court up as a supervisor of Chief Bovino's activities, intruding into personnel management decisions of the executive branch.
Bingo.
These two problems are related and lead us to conclude that the order infringes on the separation of powers.
Hello.
This is an incredible slapdown of a district judge, and for them to call her out using these kinds of very harsh words leads me to think that if she continues down this path and continues to interfere with the executive branch, meddling in matters outside of her jurisdiction, there's going to be even more she's going to be more severely rebuked by the Seventh Circuit or by the Supreme Court.
Or, looking at the precedent established for impeachment of judges that issue illegal court orders, like Judge George English from Illinois in 1926, who was impeached, or Judge Boasberg, who I think will be impeached in 2025. Sarah Ellis might well be next on that list to be impeached.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll come back with Mark Pulliam at Misrule of Law after this.
Folks, this is Crom Carmichael, CEO of Solti. I have recently turned 77 years old. I do not take prescription drugs. I have not had to take prescription drugs, and I attribute a lot of my good health to a product that I've been taking, which is the active ingredient in Solti. It's a 22% concentration of theaflavin. We did clinical trials on it 25 years ago and found that it helped lower cholesterol. We have had many, many hundreds of letters and emails from customers telling us how it has helped them not only manage their cholesterol, but lower their triglycerides and help them on their blood pressure. And I can't tell you how much I attribute to Solti for my good health at age 77. And I encourage you to go to GodzillaHeart.com. That's GodzillaHeart.com. And use the code Godzilla at checkout, and you'll get a 50% off on your initial shipment of Solti. And I promise you it will be a great help for your heart health. Thanks so much.
The Jackson Cosby Show.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories.
Mondami visited a very controversial Brooklyn mosque just months after the imam there called for the annihilation of Israel. Your thoughts?
This is a total failure of the media, the journalists, and the Democratic Party to confront this kid with his own background. He's a rabid socialist.
Jackson Cosby, 5 Eastern, 4 Central on the John Fredericks Media Network.
He gave the finger to the Columbus statue.
Right. I can't almost think of any group he hasn't offended.
Ghazala Hashmi is masquerading as a moderate, but she's really a dangerous far-left radical. The facts? Crazy far-left groups bankroll Ghazala Hashmi's campaign, and Hashmi repeatedly voted for taxpayer-funded tuition and driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. She even co-sponsored legislation to lower the penalties for criminals who assault police officers and firefighters. Ghazala Hashmi, masquerading as a moderate, too radical for Virginia.
I'm John Reed, candidate for lieutenant governor, and I sponsored this ad.
You've seen the news about Radical Jay Jones, the Democrat who wanted his opponent assassinated.
Jay Jones hoped a Republican's children would die in their mother's arms.
Jay Jones said police needed to die to advance his political agenda.
That's why every law enforcement group called on Jay Jones to withdraw from the race for Attorney General.
But Jay Jones is still in the race.
The only way to stop Jay Jones is for you to vote.
You can vote early in person right now or on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th.
Log on to votenowva.com to find out hours and locations of where you can cast your ballot today. Again, go to votenowva.com.
Vote early, vote now, vote before November 4th for our Attorney General, Jason Miyares.
This election is an easy choice. Jason Miyares is the people's protector.
And Jay Jones is too liberal and too damn soft on criminals.
Jay Jones is unacceptable for Virginia.
I'm Jason Miyares, candidate for Attorney General, and this ad was sponsored by Miyares for Virginia.
My fellow Americans, I was this close, very close, to buying from the lumber yards. These are sick people. But I turned my head at the last second, and I saw a big, beautiful ad for D.T. McCall's. These are highly respected people. If I had not turned my head at the last second, I would have been ripped off at some lumber yard for $200 in hidden charges, and D.T. McCall and Sons are never going to do that. They'd never do that to you. These are great people. I've known them for a long time. They have great deals, and I just have to say, nobody knows deals like I do. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. These are tremendous people. D.T. McCall & Sons. Check out one of their stores today.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
I flew 9 combat tours taking out terrorists.
Matt Van Epps, America First warrior.
When my Chinook took enemy fire, I kept her in the air, got our guys, and completed the mission.
Matt Van Epps, American hero.
Now I'm on a new mission to help Trump save America. I'm Matt Van Epps. I approve this message because I know what to do with terrorists. So these woke wannabes in Washington better take cover.
Matt Van Epps, the conservative warrior Trump needs.
Paid for by Matt Van Epps for Congress. This is Michael Patrick Leahy. Join Rutherford County Mayor Joe Carr, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Congressman Tim Burchett, and Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs and me at T-Bones and Politics 2025 on the evening of November 10th in Murfreesboro for a night of great food, good fellowship, and inspiring political speeches. Get your tickets now. They're going fast at tbonesandpolitics2025.com. This is a great annual event. This year, musical entertainment will be provided by the Tremolo Honey Band. If you haven't heard them before, they are absolutely fantastic. This special event is sponsored by Barrett Firearms, Old South SRM, Moody Excavating, Azure Flight Management, and SEC Engineers. So go right now to tbonesandpolitics2025.com and get your tickets for T-Bones and Politics. It's an evening of great food and fun on November 10th. I'll see you there. Paid for by Joe Pack, William Ronsley, Treasurer.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. In studio, our very good friend, all-star panelist Mark Pulliam, retired attorney, a very accomplished career as an attorney, and also the author of the blog Misrule of Law. Well, this is kind of interesting, Mark. Back in 2020, after the election and after J6 and after Joe Biden was inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States, I always described him as legal but not legitimate. And now, increasingly, as more evidence comes out, it looks like, all of our criticisms were correct. You got a couple 100,000 absentee ballots in Georgia in 2020, no chain of custody. That looks, and they're still looking into that. So that's one example. But having said that, in the joint session of Congress, the House and the Senate confirmed the guy, right? Or certified his election. So there he was in office, and supposedly all of the bills that he signed, all of the pardons that he signed would be authentic. Here's the problem. Did he sign them? There was an auto pen. Tell us about this.
Well, an auto pen is a mechanical device that provides a pretty close facsimile of the president's signature without him having to actually hold the pen and sign his name. And so if you were corresponding with constituents or sending condolences to people or doing things where, your authentic signature is not required, then it makes perfect sense that you would have this type of routine correspondence generated with a auto pen signature. What happened with Biden is that he used the auto pen extensively for signing executive orders, making nominations.
Hold on. You said he used the auto pen.
Somebody used it.
Yeah.
So you have a device producing his signature, and you're not sure who directed that, who approved that. Did Biden even know about it? And when you have particularly in the last days of his administration, after Kamala Harris had lost the election, and he was issuing pardons to hundreds, maybe thousands of people, including his own family members, his son, and that the blanket pardons, everybody that did this or that during this time period, you have to wonder, did he actually personally authorize this? Did he knowingly do it? And this is the subject of this wonderful hearing that James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, did last week.
Well, let's hear from James Comer.
Many were granted pardons by the auto pen on the last day of the Biden presidency with no record that Joe Biden played any role whatsoever in the authorization of those pardons. So I think all those pardons, from Dr. Fauci to the Biden family to Adam Schiff, the January 6th committee, the list goes on and on and on. I think every one of those pardons signed with the auto pen with no evidence that Joe Biden was involved in the decision making, I think every one of those can be declared null and void by the Department of Justice, and I think our evidence in the investigation will make that decision hold up in court.
Where does this go, Mark Pulliam?
Well, so this is not just some crazy statement that James Comer is making. His committee held hearings. They had testimony from virtually everybody that worked in the White House, that had access to the president, or that you would think would have access to the president. They reviewed extensive documents. They wanted to look at what the chain of command was between Biden and the actual use of the auto pen. And what they found was a baffling lack of any proof that Biden had actually authorized any of this. And it turns out, and this is shocking, that there was only a handful of people that had daily access to Biden. A lot of people worked in the White House, never saw him or saw him every few months, that he was huddled.
They hid him away
in Delaware, and he had his group of handlers. And so when they went and asked this inner circle, which some people have called the American Politburo, asked them, so did you have concerns about his mental competency? And, did you ever think about a cognitive test and this and that? And all of these people took the Fifth Amendment, including his personal White House doctor, took the Fifth Amendment, which makes you wonder where all this is going. And then one of the people in his inner circle, Mike Donilon, they questioned him, and and all this is in his report, and there's video clips of all of this, that if anybody doesn't believe it, they can go online and see it. they asked Donilon how much money, and this is a guy that had worked for Biden for 40 years as a staffer, and they asked him, how much money were you getting paid for your work on this presidential race before he dropped out? He said $8 million. And they said, and if he had stayed in the race and won, would you have been eligible for a bonus? And he said, yeah, and they had to kind of
How much was that bonus?
$4 million bonus. So you wonder, why were people refusing to acknowledge that he was cognitively impaired, that he was incapable of making decisions? It's because they had either a financial interest in it or that they wanted to have continued use of this auto pen in order to give pardons to people. Who knows what kind of payments were being made under the table or what kind of quid pro quo was given. So Comer has called on Pam Bondi. He says, here's my report, here's all my evidence. I don't have power as just the chairman of this House committee to do anything about it, but you do, and I'm asking you to determine if there's any legal basis to invalidate actions that were done via AutoPen on the basis that either Biden never knew about it, never authorized it, or that he was basically non compos mentis, that he was mentally incapable of authorizing this. And that's going to be a tough argument to make in court, but given, I think, the extraordinary amount of evidence that has been unearthed by Comer, I think that it's something that needs to be addressed, particularly when some of these pardons, open-ended pardons where you didn't even name everybody, you were naming groups of people. These things were inherently suspect to begin with, and now I think have become very, very tenuous.
So I think what you're saying is, even though there's no real particular legal precedent for overturning a pardon of the president, that this is unique and that there is evidence that this is not something that the president signed or was aware of signing
and at a minimum,
or authorizing.
And at a minimum, it should lead Congress to pass some statutes that say if the president wants to authorize action on the basis of something other than his actual signature, there has to be a chain of custody.
So this is where the court ruling would come in, and this is why the Department of Justice should pursue this in court.
Yep.
They should make the argument to a federal district court and say, probably in the District of Columbia, I would guess that would be the venue. So, Boasberg might look at this, and obviously he will probably dismiss it. Doesn't matter if he's still around by that time. But because he's the chief judge there, right? I don't think you can bring this in a venue other than District of Columbia, right? Because this would have happened in the White
You
House.
could possibly frame the venue if the pardon was to somebody who lived elsewhere for a crime that was, committed, or the conviction was located elsewhere.
You might do that.
Yeah.
You might be able to do that. Might. But it's worth doing. Why? I think I'm suspect, as you are, about whether or not a court would invalidate a pardon, even with all these questions. However, you're quite right. The court would end up determining, the court would make recommendations, I think, about what the standards ought to be. And based upon that, Congress could pass a law, as you suggest.
Yeah.
I think that would be the likely way that this would end up. But I think this is absolutely worth challenging these last-minute pardons in court.
Well, many people think that the cover-up of Joe Biden's unfitness for office was one of the worst scandals in political history. Miranda Devine from the New York Post has said that Joe Biden and his American Politburo almost took down the country. And Pam Bondi has a lot of things on her plate, including litigating against all of these rogue judges, which are trying to hamstring the executive branch. But this is a very important issue. If Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and these fabricated signatures, which amounted to forgeries, were used to exonerate huge numbers of wrongdoers, there needs to be a lot of scrutiny applied to this.
Well, the other angle on this is, I'm just speculating here. What if money changed hands to secure these auto pen pardons? Just what if it happened? There would be another type of relief which could be sought.
Yeah.
And I think that would be an angle to focus on. Now, Mark, all of this stuff we talk about, these are even more arguments for you to come out of retirement as an attorney. Because, the Department of Justice needs experienced attorneys. Now, I'm just saying, there might be a phone call headed your way.
You couldn't get me to step foot in the Washington D.C. It's the swamp, and
what if we had a special deal allowed you to do it from your home here in the Nashville area?
I'm living a pretty comfortable life here.
I'm trying to pull you back in, Mark Pulliam. We'll be back with more after this.
Ponder this. Adding a drop of water to a mostly filled glass of water would not make a noticeable difference. However, adding a drop of arsenic to the same glass of water could be deadly. Likewise, how is it that one person can change the world and another make no noticeable difference? This is the case of a man named Charlie Kirk. He was like a drop of sanity in a culture that is overflowing with insanity. Charlie was not an elected official. He wasn't a powerful businessman. He wasn't even a household name. But Charlie was a man driven by his love for the Lord, his love of family, and his love for country. He knew America was the greatest country in the world, and he saw how his young people were being led astray by unhealthy and anti-Christian ideologies. Charlie was sent by God to be an inspiration to many. If you listen to God's calling as Charlie did, it could perhaps change your life and the lives of those around you like you never thought could be possible. Call on God and ask Him to send you, and be prepared. He will. I'm Susie Kelly at ponderfulmoments.org.
It's simple. No worker should ever be forced to pay money to a union boss just to get or keep a job. That's why hard-working Virginians overwhelmingly support right to work and agree that forced unionism is wrong. The good news is Republican gubernatorial candidate Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears has pledged 100% to defend Virginia's popular right to work law and the economic opportunity that it provides. Unfortunately, her opponent, Abigail Spanberger, can't say the same. In Congress, Spanberger repeatedly co-sponsored legislation that would have wiped out every right to work law in the country, including Virginia's. Her record shows she supports big labor's agenda and their plan to repeal Virginia's popular right to work law. It's time for Abigail Spanberger to change her ways and apologize for support of forced unionism. Call Abigail Spanberger now and urge her to pledge to protect Virginia's right to work law. 804-223-0770. Here's what Governor Glenn Youngkin had to say.
We have to protect right to work.
This ad was paid for by the National Right to Work Committee.
Feel like you're doing everything right but not getting ahead? Join Lifestyles Unlimited in Richmond November 8th and 9th for a 2-day seminar that shows you how to build income and wealth with real estate. Thousands have used these strategies to change their financial direction, and you'll see exactly how it's done. Text RADIO to 88007. That's RADIO to 88007 today. That's Richmond, November 8th and 9th. Text RADIO to 88007.
Is your fur baby looking a bit rough? Transform them from shaggy to snazzy with Be Fur and After Pet Grooming in Marietta, Georgia. Their top-notch groomers pamper your pups with baths, custom cuts, and nail trims that'll have them strutting like show dogs. From mobile grooming vans to their cozy salon, they'll make your pet spa day a tail-wagging blast. Book now at BeFurAndAfterGrooming.com. Be Fur and After, where pets go from grr to glamorous.
Hey there, it's Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of GlockStore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported our Second Amendment rights with GlockStore.com, the world's #1 source for Glock handguns, parts, and accessories. I also support accurate, unbiased journalism like The Michael Patrick Leahy Show. His team broke the Kilmar Abrego Garcia traffic stop and was the first to obtain that video. Independent journalism at its finest. Visit us at GlockStore.com, listen to Michael Patrick Leahy, and make America great again.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody. Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, all-star panelist, good friend, retired attorney, author of the blog Misrule of Law, Mark Pulliam. Well, a lot of lawyers misruled when they were in power. One of them was James Comey, the former director of the FBI. He must be the most narcissistic person in the legal profession, and that's saying something, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot of narcissists in the legal profession, and that's one of the things that attracts certain types of lawyers to Washington, D.C., where you bathe in adoration, you get easy access to power, you have the Washington Post blowing you kisses, you've got these terrible judges like James Boasberg who will do whatever you ask them to do. And so Comey, and we've talked about this on previous shows, is not, new to this game. He has been has deep roots in the swamp. He going back decades, not just as director of the FBI, but as high-ranking official in the Department of Justice. And he has hobnobbed with all of these other swamp dwellers during that time and has a following. And so even though he's been indicted for lying to Congress about leaking confidential information to the press, his fellow swamp dwellers support him because most of these swamp dwellers have also leaked things to the press.
They're in on the game.
And they hate Donald Trump, and so they figure that, so goes Comey, could happen to me, so we need to circle the wagons. And so under the auspices of something called the Washington Litigation Group, which is currently being run by Peter Kiesler, who was one of the founders of the Federalist Society. So he's one of these guys like George Conway.
A turncoat, an ideological turncoat.
Got a dose of TDS, and they're now, for all intents and purposes, Democrats. Anyway, over 100 former high-ranking Department of Justice officials filed a brief opposing the retaliatory prosecution of James Comey. And this is in support of his motion to have the criminal charges dismissed on the grounds that they are retaliatory.
Well, did he use the term vindictive prosecution?
Vindictive.
I think, yeah.
Vindictive prosecution.
Now, that is a standard. It's a very high standard to determine vindictive prosecution. It can't be, you don't like me.
Yeah.
It's got to be a much higher standard. I don't see that standard here at all.
Well, and here there is clear evidence to support the charges. So his assertion of this vindictive prosecution defense is basically saying, if I am obnoxious enough a foe, an enemy of President Trump, and if I do enough bad things to antagonize him and to violate his rights and the rights of all of these people in his administration, and we're working on his campaign, well, that makes any effort to hold me accountable vindictive. Well, it isn't really. It's holding you accountable for violating the law.
Well, he lied to Congress.
He did.
But notice he said, well, the question was ambiguous. It was not ambiguous at all. He said, Senator Cruz asked him, do you stand by your previous testimony that you never leaked anything? Yes, I stand by that testimony. Well, guess what? Here comes his buddy, Dan Richmond, the professor at Columbia, who's basically said, yeah, wink, wink. I did give this information to the New York Times.
So this thing was hyped in the news as 100 former high-ranking Department of Justice officials. And if you actually go look at the list of names, even if you're in the legal profession and you pay attention to this, most of the names are people you've never heard of. So that amounts to a host of has-beens, wannabes, and never-weres.
Well, these are the swamp creatures who inhabited the Department of Justice under Barack Obama and others, and then Joe Biden at a mid to lower level.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have Obama's former Attorney General Eric Holder, who bragged that he was Obama's wingman. And now people are saying that Trump has politicized the Department of Justice when we have a former Attorney General who bragged that he was the president's wingman. And then we have the shabby example of former Judge Michael Luttig, who was touting the legal theory that would have kept Trump off the ballot because he was a supposed insurrectionist, because he supposedly supported what happened at J6, which was supposedly an insurrection. And that legal argument, which Luttig endorsed, was rejected 9-0 by the Supreme Court. And it's so obvious to me that Luttig is mad that he was passed over for the Supreme Court, that he isn't part of this inner circle now. And so this list of signatories at a minimum is a useful guide of who not to hire in any GOP administration now or in the future. And what this also shows is that the Democrats have a complete lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, complete.
And even chutzpah, where they would say that this is vindictive when they have been embarked on an 8-year campaign, unprecedented in our history, to go after President Trump for one reason and one reason only, is that they consider him a threat to their political control, and that he's going to not go along with the status quo. And this idea that anything could be vindictive compared to what they did in Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Crossfire Hurricane, phony FISA warrants, what they did takes the cake in terms of vindictiveness.
And on that note, Mark Pulliam, thanks for joining us every Wednesday in the 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Every Monday, right? Monday.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see you next Monday.
Thank you, Mike.
Back with my analysis of Judge Boasberg's illegal gag order. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
The Cats and Cosby Show.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories.
Mandami visited a very controversial Brooklyn mosque just months after the imam there called for the annihilation of Israel. Your thoughts?
This is a total failure of the media, the journalists, and the Democratic Party to confront this kid with his own background. He's a rabid socialist.
Cats and Cosby, 5 Eastern, 4 Central.
He gave the finger to the Columbus statue.
Right. I can't almost think of any group he hasn't offended.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Executive Director of the American Constitutional Rights Union Action Fund, and this is a Live Free Minute. Just this month, an illegal immigrant in Virginia was convicted of raping an 11-year-old girl after breaking into her home. On any given day, there are hundreds of illegal immigrants in Virginia jails who have committed violent crimes. Yet there are politicians who openly advocate for protecting these criminal illegal immigrants and who wish to make Virginia a sanctuary for them. Our constitutional republic is dependent on adherence to the rule of law. Our founders could not have imagined that there would be politicians who would be so bold as to campaign against it. I encourage you to vote this election to protect public safety and the rule of law. This Live Free Minute is sponsored by the American Constitutional Rights Union Action Fund. We empower Americans to live free. And for more information, go to acruaction.com.
John Fredericks loves his radio and TV audience, but did you know how to follow the Godzilla of Truth wherever you go? Download the John Fredericks Radio Show app to listen live nationwide. For the daily chit-chat, Trucking the Truth, download the Getter app and join the morning fun on Getter Live from 6 to 10 a.m. Follow John Fredericks on Getter, Truth Social, or Twitter.
WENO Nashville, KQPN West Memphis. Listen 24/7 with the News Talk 760 app, available in the Apple Store and Google Play.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Today is a deadline for the White House to tell 2 federal judges whether it will use emergency reserves to fully fund the food stamp program.
We just don't know how. It's unprecedented. This has never happened before in this way.
House Speaker Mike Johnson said today there are legitimate legal complications that need to be resolved.
In layman's terms, it's an extra fund that is there, for example, if you have an unexpected natural occurrence like a hurricane or something, and SNAP benefits are flowing, but you have a subset of the population that needs additional benefits, then the contingency fund would go. The way we always understood it was the contingency fund could not be used legally if the underlying fund was suspended. And that's what's happened in the CR. The Democrats voted to stop SNAP payments.
The SNAP program serves about 1 in 8 Americans and is a major piece of the nation's social safety net. It costs about $8 billion per month nationwide to maintain it, and the On Friday, judges in Rhode Island and Massachusetts ruled separately. The administration must continue to pay out for SNAP benefits. President Trump is threatening Nigeria with military action over the persecution of Christian believers there. We get more on that from White House correspondent Greg Cluxton.
Upset with what he calls the mass slaughter of Christians, the president said he's ordered the Pentagon to begin planning for potential military action in Nigeria. He wrote on social media that the U.S. may very well go into Nigeria, guns a-blazing, to stop the killing. The president also warned that he will immediately stop all aid and assistance to the West African nation. Greg Clugston, Washington.
New research is emerging on how melatonin usage might serve as an indicator of cardiovascular health, and that could provide new insights into people's heart conditions. Some businesses are suing over President Trump's newly imposed tariffs, despite his claims they will benefit American industry. On Wall Street right now, the Dow is struggling. It's down 175 points. More from townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher, host of The Mike Gallagher Show. I don't mess around when it comes to saving you money. Right now, rates have dropped to the lowest level in over a year and a half. That means if you bought your home or refinanced in the last 3 years, you could be saving hundreds of dollars every month. Lower your rate, lower your monthly payment, even kick that pesky PMI to the curb. And get this, you can skip 2 full months of mortgage payments. But that's not all. Fellowship Home Loans just rolled out something incredible. Their very own HELOC and lines of credit. Approval in just 5 minutes. Money in your account in as little as 4 days. It's the easiest system you've ever used. You can do it yourself online. Whether you want to pay off bills, tackle a home project, cover education, or even a wedding, Fellowship Home Loans makes it simple to leverage the money that's already sitting in your house. Just go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike-G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike-G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending guided by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Here's Rich Thomason with the Midday Wall Street Business Report.
Kimberly-Clark, the company behind brands including Huggies, Kleenex, and Cottonelle, is branching out. It's buying Tylenol maker Kenvue in a roughly $48.7 billion cash and stock deal, creating a massive consumer health goods company. Kimberly-Clark shares slid more than 15% after it announced the acquisition. Kenvue shares jumped 19%. It's another big week of corporate earnings reports amid an absence of economic data as the government shutdown drags on. Microsoft has entered into a roughly $9.7 billion cloud services contract with artificial intelligence cloud service provider Iron. It will give it access to some NVIDIA chips. Iron shares soared more than 22% before the opening bell. Microsoft shares effectively unchanged. I'm Rich Thomason.
You'll find breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration says drug makers have recalled more than 500,000 bottles of the blood pressure medication Prozosyn hydrochloride over concerns it may include a cancer-causing chemical. We get more in this story from Bernie Bennett.
New Jersey-based Teva Pharmaceuticals USA and drug distributor AmericaSource Health Services issued voluntary nationwide recalls early this month of more than 580,000 bottles of various strengths of Prozosyn capsules, according to the FDA. The FDA said in enforcement orders posted online that it has given the infected lots of drugs a Class 2 risk classification because some of the recalled medication may have nitrosamine immunities that are considered potentially cancer-causing. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
British police said on Sunday that one of the 2 men who were arrested in connection with the mass stabbing attack that spread fear and panic on a London-bound train a day earlier has been released.
It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Well, I'm going to lay it out for you right now. Why Judge James Boasberg, federal district court judge, the chief judge in the District of Columbia for federal courts, why he should be impeached. And the basis for this impeachment is not only his overarching abuse of power of his office over a period of several years, his complete attempt to destroy the Trump administration from the bench, but the straw that broke the camel's back was a news reported last week that he signed an illegal court order that deprived Senator Marsha Blackburn and 8 other Republican U.S. senators of due process. This provides the grounds for his impeachment. And I'm going to talk about the precedent that was established 99 years ago when the House of Representatives impeached a federal district court judge from Eastern Illinois, George English, for the similar actions, abuse of power of the office and illegal court orders. So let's get to the details of this. On May 25th, 2023, Chief Judge James Boasberg of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia issued a court order to Verizon forbidding the company from informing Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, and 8 other Republican senators for 1 year that he had signed a subpoena requiring Verizon, and in the case of Ted Cruz, AT&T, to turn over metadata and toll record information from the senators' accounts with the companies to a grand jury convened as part of the Biden administration's Operation Arctic Frost. This gag order was an illegal violation of, wait for it, a federal statute, the Stored Communications Act, the Speech and Debate Clause of the Constitution, the Separation of Powers doctrine of the Constitution, as well as Senator Blackburn's First Amendment free speech rights, Fourth Amendment protection from illegal search and seizure rights, and Fifth Amendment due process rights. This illegal gag order is the straw that broke the camel's back, and it is grounds for the impeachment of Judge James Boasberg. Now, let's talk about impeachment and the standard for impeachment. In the history of our republic, 15 federal judges have been impeached. 8 of those judges have been convicted by the U.S. Senate and removed from office. 4 have been tried in the Senate and acquitted. 3 resigned before their trials were conducted in the Senate. One of those 15 impeached judges was Federal District Court Judge for Eastern Illinois, George English. Now, he was impeached in 1926 on 5 charges, including, I'll quote from the articles of impeachment, quote, tyranny and oppression and abuse of the powers of his office, improper and unlawful conduct in connection with a bankruptcy ring operating in his district, and a general course of conduct constituting misbehavior and misdemeanor in office, end quote. Now, if you want to talk about the evidence of Judge English's abuse of power, of the powers of his office, look at this. He issued an illegal court order that imprisoned a litigant before him. That was an attorney, Harry Crawford, imprisoned him for 1 year on charges of contempt of court. Crawford's alleged crime was criticizing Judge English for his conduct on the bench in a receivership case in which Crawford was appearing on behalf of a client. Crawford actually served several months in prison before the Court of Appeals ordered his release in the famous case Crawford v. United States. That was ruled by the 7th Circuit Court in 1924. Let me just read from that decision where the appeals court found Judge English violated Harry Crawford's due process rights. And let me just kind of get to this right now. The contempt proceedings grew out of a bankruptcy matter pending before Judge English in the Eastern District of Illinois, in which one Frank W. Klein was adjudged a bankrupt. Crawford was attorney for certain creditors. The order of adjudication was entered on August 25th, 1923. On September 4th of 1923, Judge English made an order fixing the time for the first time meeting of creditors and directing the trustee qualify and take possession of the bankruptcy's property. On September 8th, Crawford wrote a letter to Judge English, basically, which is set forth in full in the opinion of the district court. It's a severe arraignment of Judge English for the course pursued by him in the Klein bankruptcy proceeding. It charges the judge with acting arbitrarily and unjustly and with great prejudice against the creditors whom Crawford represented, with favoring the bankrupt. The letter closes with this statement, quote, "I am writing this letter to you not because I have any hopes that you will change your mind, but as a matter of record, so that the higher courts of this land may know the manner in which Judge George W. English conducts his court." That's a bit of a throwdown. The court went on to say the following: "The receipt of this letter was acknowledged by Judge English, who at once caused an order to be entered finding Crawford guilty of contempt of court and sentencing him to imprisonment for 1 year. No citation was served upon Crawford, and no notice was given to him of the pendency of the contempt proceeding. He was arrested upon a bench warrant issued upon this order and was taken into custody by the marshal." Here's the key point. The order by Judge English finding Crawford guilty of contempt was made without notice to him and without giving him an opportunity to be heard. Even if the letter had constituted a contempt, Crawford was entitled to notice and an opportunity to be heard before he could be summarily published. That's basically what due process is, right? You cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. Now let's go back to what happened subsequently. So they ordered his release. Crawford was released from prison. An investigative reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, a fellow by the name of John Rogers, wrote a number of stories that documented in detail a litany of abuses of power by Judge English. Those stories caught the attention of Representative George Graham, Republican from Pennsylvania, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, who began an impeachment inquiry. Now, for his reporting on Judge English, John T. Rogers won the 1927 Pulitzer Prize. See the parallels to today? The House of Representatives ultimately impeached Judge English in a 360-62 vote on April 1st, 1926. Judge English resigned from the bench before the Senate was scheduled to conduct his trial later that year. So he's one of the 3 out of the 15 impeached who resigned. Now, here's the bottom line. A full century after federal district court Judge English issued the illegal contempt of court order that led to his impeachment, federal district court Judge James Boasberg issued a similarly illegal court order that will lead to his impeachment. More on that when we get back.
Folks, John Fredericks here for Freedom Alliance. Veterans are still struggling with the wounds of war. They came home with injuries that changed them forever. The flag-burning troublemakers in our streets remind me how fortunate we are to have patriots who served and fought, sacrificed, and never complained. We need to support them through organizations like the Freedom Alliance. It's Military Appreciation Month and time to support those who serve. Freedom Alliance is caring for combat veterans and military families. Combat veterans fought in the worst, most dangerous places on earth. Freedom Alliance takes them to nature's most relaxing locations so they can heal. Freedom Alliance gives injured troops mortgage-free homes, new cars, and all-terrain wheelchairs. For wounded vets, there's nothing like the stability of your own home, the reinsurance of a reliable vehicle, or the independence of a wheelchair that navigates snow, ice, beach, pasture, or most any terrain. Let's fight for those who fought for us. Go to freedomalliance.org/Godzilla and make a monthly gift that will improve the life of a military hero. That's freedomalliance.org/Godzilla. Make a contribution today.
If you're like me, most moms find it difficult to prioritize self-care. Hi, it's Colleen, Program Director at the John Fredericks Media Network. With the demands of programming 13 radio stations, it's easy to forget about the things I should do for myself daily. And that's why I started with our company's Women's Challenge with Native Path Collagen Peptides. It's affordable and convenient care in just 1 scoop a day. There are so many incredible health benefits like bone and joint support, metabolism booster, and hair, skin, and nail improvement. I like to take a moment each day to prioritize myself and indulge in the health-boosting benefits of Native Path Collagen Peptides. I love mixing it up with all the different smoothie recipes, too. Learn more about Native Path Collagen Peptides and read 7 important reasons why you should be taking collagen peptides at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Prioritize your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today and get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
Target.com. Target.com is an online e-commerce tire retailer. We are here to serve the American public with the best possible customer service, the best pricing, and we make it extremely easy. We have many name brands and a lot of low-cost tires. The price is right, and it's easy. You go online to Target.com, Tireget.com, Target.com. You go there, you put your zip code in, all the inventory displays right in front of you. You can call in for help if you want to. We'll help you get the tire that you need. But we will take the tires you buy and at no extra charge deliver them to the dealer right by your house where they will be installed at the market price. It's easy. The best price, the best service. Great people to deal with. Thank you for going to Target.
Now more than ever, President Trump needs battle-tested conservatives fighting alongside him to save our country. That's why Trump endorsed Matt Van Epps for Congress. West Point grad, 9 combat tours, decorated Army vet. Matt Van Epps has devoted his life to defending America and the conservative values we cherish. Endorsed by Trump, fearless conservative. Tennessee's Matt Van Epps for Congress. School Freedom Fund is responsible for the content of this ad.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We are delighted to have you here. Okay, let's look at a century after Judge George English was impeached by the House of Representatives. It was, by the way, it wasn't even close. It was 306 to 62, I think, was a vote in that case. It was pretty overwhelming. Now, a century after that vote, what we have is a very interesting situation. In April of 2022, the Biden-era Federal Bureau of Investigation opened the investigation that they've called Arctic Frost. By the way, what is Arctic Frost? It's a type of mandarin orange, like, Orange Man Bad, that focused initially on alleged election interference schemes relating to the 2020 presidential election, and later expanded to include hundreds of subpoenas targeting Republican individuals and organizations. On May 25th, 2023, Judge James Boasberg, who had approved the subpoenas on all of these Republicans, including 9 U.S. Republican senators, he signed a gag order issued to Verizon that accompanied the grand jury subpoena from Special Counsel Jack Smith for phone records of several Republican U.S. senators. Similar subpoenas were sent to AT&T. Now, interestingly enough, AT&T read the subpoena and said they refused to comply. Why? Because rightfully they noted that it violated the speech and debate clause of the Constitution. But Verizon thought otherwise. They said, yeah, let's go ahead and we're going to comply with this. Let me read to you the language of Judge Boasberg's illegal order, his illegal gag order. And by the way, Judge Boasberg has been, he's a Yale Law School graduate. He's been practicing law for years. He's been a judge for many, many years. He knows what he's doing. He knows, and he knew in May of 2023 that his gag order was illegal. Why did he do it? Well, because he hates Donald Trump. And remember, let's put this context together. What was going on in May of 2023? Well, Donald Trump was being, was under all sorts of indictments. You go to the list, the Manhattan thing, the E. Jean Carroll thing, Tish James, Georgia, all over the place. Remember? That, and then you had Jack Smith, who was, about to go in and indict him over the documents thing after raiding Mar-a-Lago. It's all political stuff. At that time, I went back and looked at this. The odds makers. The odds at that time that President Trump would be elected in 2024 were, not that great. I mean, they had some odds, but not so much, even though he had announced. And the odds that he was indicted, you look at the predicted would be indicted on these multiple charges, were very, very high. The odds were a little bit less that he would be convicted. But Judge Boasberg said, let's drive this home. Let's go after these United States senators and let's deny them due process. He knew that he was doing this, and he didn't care because he thought, this is my view, he thought that Donald Trump would not win re-election. Let me read exactly what this judge said. This matter having come before the court pursuant to an application under 18 U.S. Code 2705, requesting an order directing Verizon, an electronic communication and or remote commuting service provider located in Bedminster, New Jersey, not to notify any other person of the existence of subpoena number so-and-so issued by the United States on behalf of the federal grand jury impaneled in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. The court finds, wait for this, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. It is therefore ordered that Verizon and its employees shall not disclose the existence of the subpoena to any other person, except for attorneys for the provider, for a period of 1 year, unless the period of non-disclosure is later modified by the court. Notice that. Unless the period of non-disclosure is later modified by the court. What's he saying there? You can't say anything until May of 2024, and we may extend this beyond the election. Now, what exactly happened, whether or not that was extended, I don't know. But Chuck Grassley held the press conference just last week to talk about this. And at that press conference, Senator Blackburn, whose due process rights were violated by this gag order, called the surveillance illegal and demanded a reckoning for telecom firms that cooperated with subpoenas. At that same press conference, Ted Cruz, who was also somebody who was subject to this subpoena, his cell phone wasn't taken by AT&T. They didn't comply, but apparently his landline had a different provider, and that provider complied. Basically, he called on the House of Representatives to impeach Judge Boasberg. Here's what the New York Post said. Quote, the order was signed by U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg and barred the cell carrier, his cell carrier, AT&T, from letting Cruz know about the request, quote, for at least 1 year. The Texas Republican and others call for Boasberg's impeachment in the House, with Cruz claiming the judge was, quote, abusing his power by asserting in the order there were, quote, reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. Cruz focused on the specific language from Boasberg's gag order. Quote, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe such disclosure will result in destruction of and tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy. Here's the key on this. Quote, if a judge signs an order reaching a factual conclusion for which there is zero evidence whatsoever, that judge is abusing his power. Well, let's go this. This Judge Boasberg, he's a graduate from Yale Law School, been practicing law for about 30 years. He knows what reasonable grounds is. He knows what the standard for reasonable grounds is. There's a lot of court cases at the Supreme Court that have defined reasonable grounds. What is that? It's got a very limited meaning. It represents a specific evidentiary threshold. It is lower than probable cause, but higher than just a hunch. Courts have long held that such a finding must rest on, wait for it, specific, articulable facts that would lead a reasonable person to infer that unlawful activity might occur. Here's the key. The standard is objective, not subjective. A judge, Judge Boasberg, or officer must be able to point to concrete observations or information, not conjecture or general suspicion. Well, Boasberg knew there was no such evidence. Yeah, as Cruz pointed out, in the case of this illegal gag order, Boasberg had, quote, zero evidence. That means no specific articulable facts to support his finding in the order that there were reasonable grounds that the 9 Republican U.S. senators whose cell phone providers were subpoenaed would destroy or tamper with evidence and intimidate potential witnesses. This is ridiculous, beyond ridiculous. And he knew it. This judge knows it, that there's no evidence to support that. I want to talk about this. Due process. Due process is guaranteed under our Fifth Amendment, part of the Bill of Rights ratified in 1791. No person may be deprived of life, liberty, or property, quote, without due process of law. Now, this is interesting. This foundational concept of due process, it's been in the news a lot of late because it seems that the due process rights of illegal aliens who are subject to final deportation orders are very important to elements of the regime media and to a number of federal district court judges. But it is the ultimate irony of American life in 2025 that these regime media outlets and many federal district court judges, they've repeatedly demonstrated great concern for the due process rights of illegal aliens. But in the case of at least one federal district court judge, that would be James Boasberg, he has absolutely no concern for the due process rights of 9 U.S. Republican senators. Right? What you have to have notice. You have to be notified, and then you have to have an opportunity to respond. This illegal gag order that he sent to Verizon and AT&T deprived 9 U.S. senators, including from here in Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty, of their due process rights. What kind of world do we live in where federal district court judges elevate illegal aliens with deportation orders, allegedly who've committed crimes and are being subjected to criminal proceedings? Why are they elevating their due process rights and denying due process rights to United States senators? Not a good look. Back with more after this.
EJ Haast here, founder of the Digital Footprint Management Agency and frequent guest on the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, here to tell you about GetFoundEverywhere.com. Customers are searching for your business everywhere: Google, Apple Maps, TikTok, and new AI platforms like ChatGPT and Gemini, which is a total disruptor. Traditional search engine optimization isn't dead, but it is on life support. Old tactics don't work anymore. So how can you make your business stand out? GetFoundEverywhere.com makes your business pop on over 50 search, map, review, and AI-driven platforms. With one easy dashboard, manage business profiles, social media accounts, direct messages, even texts and reviews. GetFoundEverywhere.com is affordable, boosts your visibility, and gets your business more customers. It's time to step up your game the easy way. Save time, save money, and get more customers with GetFoundEverywhere.com.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
Paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody, Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of Glockstore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported the Second Amendment rights of free men and women to protect themselves and their families with firearms. We offer the very best in both selection and prices on Glock handguns, custom Glocks, Glock magazines, and high-performance shooting accessories at Glockstore.com. We also have the finest retail showroom and our Shoot 270 shoot rooms right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Come visit us at Glockstore.com, and you'll be glad you did.
My fellow Americans, my good friends, I've known them for a long time, at D.T. McCall & Sons have the deal of a lifetime for you, and nobody knows deals like I do. That much I can tell you. Nobody knows deals like I do. The lumber yards, they can hit you with hidden charges for up to $200 extra. They'll charge you for cords and hoses and haul-offs. Your money goes all over the place and out of the state, and most importantly, out of your pockets. How do they get away with that? I don't know how they do that, but on day one, if you buy from McCall's, we are going to stop the hidden charges as soon as you buy it. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. Head to one of their stores today or check them out at dtmccalls.com. You're going to love it, believe me.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
This is Michael Patrick Leahy. Join Rutherford County Mayor Joe Carr, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Congressman Tim Burchett, and Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs, and me at T-Bones and Politics 2025 on the evening of November 10th in Murfreesboro for a night of great food, good fellowship, and inspiring political speeches. Get your tickets now. They're going fast at tbonesandpolitics2025.com. This is a great annual event. This year, musical entertainment will be provided by the Tremolo Honey Band. If you haven't heard them before, they are absolutely fantastic. This special event is sponsored by Barrett Firearms, Old South SRM, Moody Excavating, Azure Flight Management, and SEC Engineers. So go right now to tbonesandpolitics2025.com and get your tickets for T-Bones and Politics. It's an evening of great food and fun on November 10th. I'll see you there. Paid for by Joe Pack, William Ronsley, Treasurer.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Okay, now we want to take a minute to talk about the political Eeyores out there. What do I mean by that? I mean, let's talk about all of those people that say, oh, yeah, you don't want to go ahead and impeach James Boasberg, even though he committed impeachable offenses for a federal district judge, because, you know, the Senate will never reach the 2/3 number that you need to convict somebody in an impeachment. That may well be true, but it is important to impeach him. Why? Number one, these are clearly impeachable offenses. And I think, now, this is a message to Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and to Jim Jordan, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. First, impeachment proceedings begin in the judiciary, right? So this is Jim Jordan is the key guy who's got to start this. He's got to talk to Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. But we have a huge problem right now at the federal district court judge level all of these Obama and Biden appointed judges hate Donald Trump, and they are not driven by fidelity to the Constitution. They are basically political hacks, and they are abusing the law to accomplish their political objectives. James Boasberg is the one who has given he's given Republicans the reason to go after and impeach him, because this illegal gag order that denied the due process rights to 9 U.S. senators and then also violated the Stores Communications Act, as well as the speech and debate clause of the Constitution, as well as the separation of powers clause of the Constitution, and the First and Fourth Amendment rights of these senators. That's pretty egregious, right? So it has to be stopped. He's perhaps he's the one who's most vulnerable right now, because clearly there are absolute grounds to impeach the guy. Now, the process works in the United States. The House has the authority to impeach on a majority vote. The Senate, to convict and remove somebody, that requires a 2/3 vote. And you remember what happened when the Democrats controlled the Senate and the House impeached Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary. The Senate didn't even take it up. That's how much Chuck Schumer cares about the Constitution. But in this case, I think there are plenty of evidence, and I think they can get the impeachment majority in the House. I think even Thomas Massey of Kentucky would agree that this is an impeachable offense. So let's start the process. Jim Jordan, I'm calling you out right now. Time to act. You need to basically start impeachment hearings. This week, begin the hearings to impeach Judge James Boasberg, and bring in witnesses and ask them questions, and bring in Judge Boasberg, ask him questions. He'll take the fifth. He won't answer the question, right? But let's continue with that process. That takes a month or so, right? And then advance it to the floor of the House for a vote. I think there is more than enough evidence to impeach Judge James Boasberg. Okay, so now this impeachment will go over to the Senate, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune will take it up, and there will be a trial, and the trial will be broadcast on C-SPAN and Fox News and other places, and the Judge Boasberg's abuse of power will be documented in great extent. It's not just what I've talked about, the illegal gag order. There's a long list of other activities that he's engaged in. In fact, back in March of 2025, he spoke to a bunch of federal district court judges and said, "We must resist Donald Trump." And then he concocted a way in late March to obtain control over a lawsuit incorrectly filed in a federal district court in District of Columbia. By the way, he's a smart guy. He knew that this particular case I'm talking about should not have been filed in District of Columbia. The proper venue is Texas. This was the case where a couple hundred Tren de Aragua criminal illegal aliens were being deported. Remember that case? To El Salvador. And at like 1 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday morning, he convened a special hearing, and he brought everybody in remotely and within 24 hours. And he said, we've got, actually it was a Friday, I think. But he said, we can't send those planes out. They must stop. They must stop. Well, there were 3 planes. By the time he issued his verbal order, 2 of the 3 had gone out. The third went out within half an hour. And then the following morning, he issued his written order saying, you can't send those planes out. I forbid it. But he knew this was all orchestrated. This was all an attempt to defy the Trump administration, not at all an exercise in judicial review. This was an exercise of political hackery at an extreme level. That's just another example of his abuse of power. My point on all this is you go through the impeachment hearings and you bring all this out. The public understands it. This will take us, we're in November right now. You start the hearings now. You continue into, let's say, February. By March, of 2026. This is before the Senate. That Senate trial will last, let's say it lasts 3 weeks. All of the bad actions of Boasberg will be brought front and center. The American people will see the bad actions, the lawfare of Judge Boasberg. And now, look, if you're Judge Boasberg, the humiliation of your bad actions being brought to the front and center might be enough to force you to resign, to cause you to resign. Remember, 15 federal judges have been impeached in the course of the history of the United States. Eight of those were convicted, 4 were acquitted, and 3, like Judge George English, who had that illegal court order and abuse of power, just like James Boasberg, he resigned before his trial went to the Senate. Now, Boasberg's been around a long time. Maybe he'll resign, or maybe he'll decide he wants to be a hero for the left. The problem with that is most of the American people are going to look at this and look at him with entire disdain. So if he doesn't resign, he goes through the humiliation of the public trial. And he won't be the only one watching this. All these other couple hundred leftist federal district court judges appointed by Obama and Biden are going to be paying attention. And they'll be thinking, who's up next? Sarah Ellis, the district court judge in Illinois, who just got slapped down for usurping separation of powers by ordering the Department of Homeland Security executive to come before her every day at 6 p.m. Yeah, she would be probably up next. And there's many others on the federal district court level that are clearly political hacks. Having said that, it's important for another reason to hold this trial. Not only to kind of constrain the behavior of out-of-control federal district court judges appointed by Obama and Biden. Also think about this. Think about the electoral impact in the midterms of these hearings. Now, if the trial is in March or April, maybe a little bit longer, but maybe the trial happens, maybe the trial happens in September of next year, right? Just before the midterm elections. How do you think the American people are going to respond to this kind of dramatic evidence of the abuse of power by federal district court judges? They going to like it? Well, most Americans won't. Who will like it? Well, the same Americans the same voters, let's put it this way. I say Americans with an asterisk, right? Because a number of them are foreign-born, and some of the foreign-born probably aren't even American citizens. But in certain states and cities that are blue, they'll be allowed to vote, right? So here is the deal. This trial will elevate Republican support for the midterms, and it will solidify the far left, right? Because they say, oh yeah, these judges should be doing this. No, they shouldn't. And so I think this will have a political consequence. So there you go. That's our story on James Boasberg and why he should be impeached. Now, we're not the only ones who are pointing this out. Our friend Sean Davis of The Federalist and Mike Benz, former State Department official, are arguing not only should he be impeached, but there are possible federal statutes that he violated with that illegal court order, the Stored Communication Act being one. So we'll see how all this plays out. I do think, what should you do? I'm telling you right now, you should get on the phone and you should call your member of Congress and you should say, look, if you do nothing for the rest of this year, I want you to co-sponsor the articles of impeachment that Representative, I think it's Brandon Gill from Texas, is about to file. Co-sponsor it and get those hearings going. I know here in Tennessee, for instance, we went out and we talked to 3 members of the House who are Republicans. We talked to Andy Ogles of the 5th District, Tim Burchett of the 2nd District, Scott Desjardins of the 4th District. And we asked them this important question. Do you favor the impeachment of Judge James Boasberg? All three of them said emphatically no. So we're going to go actually now, and we're going to ask every member of the Republican delegation of the House of Representatives that very same question. Chuck Fleischman from the Chattanooga area, Diane Harshbarger from up in East Tennessee, and we're going to ask them that very question, and we'll see. We'll see if they're going to stand up. In fact, I'm just going to strongly suggest to you, if you're listening to this program today, and you are represented by a Republican in the House of Representatives, not a Democrat, it's not even worth it. Don't bother, because they're going to be cheering for this usurpation of the rights of due process of Republican senators. But call them up and say, you must co-sponsor the articles of impeachment. You must vote to impeach Judge James Boasberg. When we come back, News Potpourri. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
Tom Carmichael, CEO of Soul Tea, a supplement to help you have a healthier heart and stronger cardiovascular system. At Soul Tea, we regularly get emails from our customers telling us how Soul Tea has helped them. Like this one from Kelly. Hello, I'm 58 years old and have had high cholesterol for years. I wanted to stay away from prescription drugs. My husband and I have been using Soul Tea for about 13 months. My results have been amazing. My cholesterol levels went from 291 to 129. I am so impressed with Soul Tea and want to thank you. Now, in my own case, my bad cholesterol dropped from 130 to 89, and that was 20 years ago. I'm 75 years old and I take 0 prescription drugs. To get a great deal on Soul Tea, please go to GodzillaHeart.com, and when you check out, use the code Godzilla to get our best deal, which is 50% off your first shipment and then 3 bottles for the price of 2 thereafter. You don't have to live with a broken heart.
Do you suffer from
Try
declining
Soul
bone
Tea
and
today.
joint health? Hi, it's Tina with the John Fredericks Media Network. And when I heard about our company's Women's Challenge, I jumped on the opportunity to test this amazing supplement that's already restoring my bone density, soothing my joint pain, and helping me regain lost mobility. I've experienced so many benefits in such a short time with Native Path Collagen Peptides because they support my bones and joints, boost my metabolism, and unleash the most radiant skin and hair since my 20s. In just 2 weeks, my knee stiffness is gone, and I'm already hitting the gym more aggressively. And I get so many compliments on my glowy skin and shiny hair. Native Path Collagen Peptides are so easy to take. They're tasteless, odorless, and mix great with my morning coffee. Read thousands of 5-star reviews at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Level up your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today. And get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
In 2008, the amount of concentrated time people could spend on a task without becoming distracted was 12 seconds. 5 years later, it was only 8 seconds, 1 second less than a goldfish. If you're often distracted or have trouble recalling information, you're likely to fall behind in the demanding, fast-paced 21st century. In other words, brain performance is more critical now than ever. Boost your brain power with Healthy Cells Focus Plus Recall. Science-backed nootropics to help you sharpen focus, concentrate longer, enhance recall, improve mental speed, learn rapidly, and be more alert. It's a pill-free brain supplement made with maximum absorption ingestible gel technology, designed to feed your brain at the cellular level. Take it for a test drive. Go to healthycell.com and use code GODZILLA for 20% off your first order of Focus Plus Recall. That's healthycell.com, code GODZILLA for 20% off.
I flew 9 combat tours taking out terrorists.
Matt Van Epps, America First warrior.
When my Chinook took enemy fire, I kept her in the air, got our guys, and completed the mission.
Matt Van Epps, American hero.
Now I'm on a new mission to help Trump save America. I'm Matt Van Epps. I approve this message because I know what to do with terrorists. So these woke wannabes in Washington better take cover.
Matt Van Epps, the conservative warrior Trump needs.
Paid for by Matt Van Epps for Congress.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We are broadcasting live from our studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, folks, it's that time of day. It's time for News Potpourri. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, News Potpourri. This is the portion of the program where we talk about those stories that are of note, don't necessarily merit a full segment, and may have a touch of irony. Well, we've got a Gavin Newsom clip here that seems a little weird to me. Pot calling kettle black. Yeah, in this very exclusive interview, Gavin Newsom revealed what he can't stand about politicians.
Nothing I dislike more than the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break.
All the guy does is lie. But he moves his hands in a certain way when he lies, right? Well, he's always lying. Yeah, he the Pacific Palisades, that fire, that fire was because of what? Global warming? No. Was it because of bad timber management practices and inability to actually do the basic of firefighting that the state of California and the city of Los Angeles are involved in? Yeah, might have been that. Hey, we've got a couple kind of related stories from California. My friend Joel Pollack, who has been a Breitbart editor for 15 years. He started in 2010 at Breitbart. A couple years before, I joined Breitbart in 2012, and I was with them until, I think, 2021. I think spent about 10 years with Breitbart. He's left Breitbart and has moved to be the opinion editor for the California Post. What is the California Post? Well, it's basically the California version of the New York Post. It's still part of the Murdoch empire. And look, I think that is congratulations to our friend Joel Pollack. It means we might be able to have him on the program a little bit more because I've got fewer layers of communications controllers to go through. I did with Breitbart. The only guy at Breitbart that doesn't have a communication controller is our good friend Matt Boyle. Everybody else, they got a communication controller. Hey, here's a story for you. Barry Weiss, the new head of CBS News, who's kind of been a little bit disappointing in terms of, she's made some changes, but that 13 minutes we asked to rebut the false claims about Kilmar Abrego Garcia that were covered a couple weeks ago on 60 Minutes, she hasn't called us yet to give us those 13 minutes that we wanted to report on. But here's the story from page 6, part of the New York Post. Her security detail cost CBS News $10,000 a day. Whoa. Page 6 hears that as staffers watch their colleagues pack up their desks, they are also learning that the security detail for new CBS News boss Barry Weiss costs the company 5 figures every day. Insiders tell us that 8 bodyguards surround the Free Press founder at all times, and she's shuttled around in a caravan of SUVs, much like the president and vice president. And we're told that the Barry security costs $10,000 daily. The figure for the unprecedented details would be eye-catching enough, but the leak comes as the struggling network lost 100 staffers in a bloodbath, which has affected those at every level of the, quote, storied news. This is page 6. This is New York Post saying this by Ollie Coleman. Well, who cares? I mean, they need to cut CBS News propagandists by like 80%. I'm all in favor. Put $20,000 a day on her security and hope that she delivers. What else this is interesting. A little twist and turn. So I guess like on Saturday, food stamps, SNAP benefits ran out, right? Because we're in the midst of this government shutdown. And it's like $8 billion a month to pay 42 million Americans for food stamps. Now, are they all, are they all deserving? Probably not. But the Trump administration says SNAP will be partially funded after a couple of federal district court judges ruled that they got to pay him. Now, here's a little problem on this, right? There's no appropriation for it, right? So legally, how do you do that? Now, I think what Trump is saying is, okay, there's an emergency fund with $5 billion that's designed for hurricanes and things of that nature. They're going to dip into that a little bit, but the administration of this is kind of a mess. And I can tell you exactly why I think Trump said, okay, these orders, by the way, are federal district court judges, again, usurping the separation of powers. They're saying Congress has the right to appropriate these funds, but we want you to spend them. They're basically taking over the appropriation duties of Congress. It's a separation of powers violation. But I know the thinking on Trump's part. Okay, pretty soon the shutdown will be over, they're thinking, and the funds will be available. So we're just going to move funds around and then ultimately replace them. That's kind of their thinking. And plus, I mean, really, there is a human cost to this. There's like $5 billion in this emergency fund. It's not enough to pay everybody the $8 billion. And then the administration of it is like a nightmare. Even if they said, okay, take all $5 billion in emergency for one period of time and dedicate it to cover, that's what, 5/8 of the regular payment going out to somebody. It's going to take a couple weeks to go through all of the calculations of who gets what and which state gets it. It's a mess. But I think this indicates that the Trump administration thinks that after the elections tomorrow, we're likely to see the end of a shutdown. We'll see. Well, that's it for our show today. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. A great show. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock Central Time. Have a great day.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
Paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody, Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
Hey there, it's Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of GlockStore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported our Second Amendment rights with GlockStore.com, the world's #1 source for Glock handguns, parts, and accessories. I also support accurate, unbiased journalism like The Michael Patrick Leahy Show. His team broke the Kilmar Abrego Garcia traffic stop and was the first to obtain that video. Independent journalism at its finest. Visit us at GlockStore.com. Listen to Michael Patrick Leahy and make America great again.
FlatFeeNashville.com is a full-service real estate brokerage that charges homeowners a upfront flat fee of $999 to completely list, market, and sell your home. We are all about saving consumers money, saving that equity. Nobody should hire an agent and feel like when that agent walks in the door, that agent is more concerned about the down payment on their next Mercedes purchase versus saving the equity that those homeowners have worked hard for. I've spent my entire career in ensuring that the equity that people save and they put into their monthly mortgage every single month, as much of that as we possibly can goes back to them when they go to list and sell that home. The idea is to give homeowners the ability to really create generational wealth.
FlatFeeNashville.com, FlatFeeNashville.com.